Alright, come on. Go live. Let's see, did it work? Alright, audio and video. Thank you, Lenina. Excellent. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to Paleontologizing. Welcome back to St. George, Utah. Sorry about the delay. We were getting some rain and some other weather earlier, too. You'll see some of the results of that. But glad you could make it today. If it's your very first time, allow me to introduce myself real quick. My name is Danny Anduza. I'm a dinosaur paleontologist. I'm here on Twitch trying to do some good old-fashioned science outreach. And yeah, right now we've got something very special and very urgent. We're working at an emergency fossil dig site in the middle of St. George, Utah, and it really is, like I said earlier, the middle of the town here. The middle school over there, housing development, there's the museum, Taco Bell across the street, all that stuff. Here in the middle of the town, this is an incredible fossil site, recording a really cool years ago, at the beginning of the Jurassic period. This particular spot right here is slated to be destroyed shortly. So we're here trying to dig up as many fossils as we can, collect as many specimens, much data, do as much science as we can before the bulldozers roll in. We're told that April 30th will be our last day to work here. So it's all hands on deck trying to get this done. It's been a little bit frustrating, you know, having the weather kind of turn on us last night. Ton of rain. There were big puddles of water in the quarry this morning, but things are starting to dry out, and yeah, I'll go show you around in a minute. Let's see. And brought the jacket out. Yeah, Mizart rules. I should have brought a less elaborate jacket than this. I was trying to pack light this time around. I was here a few weeks ago, and I packed too much stuff. This time around, I should have packed another big heavy rain jacket that I got for this here in Wyoming. But I'm testing of it here. It's been really nice, but it is a little heavy duty for our purposes here. So if these clouds roll out of the way and it gets a bit sunnier and warmer, I'll take it off. Just had 2 hummingbirds zip past me at 1,000,000 miles an hour, chirping their heads off. Anywho, yeah. Welcome, everybody. Let's see who we've got here in the chat. Mizart Rules, Lenina, Halle Berry, Kodali, Charlie's Dragon, Lordy. How are you doing, Lordy? Spartan. Hello. Nice Churt and MF Jonesy, Mustache Mike, Golganak, Community Time, Tax Do, Danish Viking, Phoenix the Archaeologist. Welcome, everybody. It's good to have you here. Yeah. So yeah. Anywho, let's go walk around. I'd hoped any rain would be light. Yeah, Golganak. We actually had to go shelter in the museum across the street for a little while last night. Rain was really, really heavy. It didn't last for very long, but it was intense. And the wind this afternoon has been really something as well. Thankfully, my tent is held up, but Andrew's tent blew over earlier, and he's like, I'm not even going to bother putting it up yet. If we keep getting these big gusts of wind, then yeah. But anywho, here is the quarry right here. We've got fewer volunteers than we had yesterday just because we had to tell a bunch of folks, like, hey, we're not sure if we're going to be able to work here today. We're not sure if things are going to dry out fast enough. And if we keep getting a bunch of rain, you know, today might be just have to write. We didn't have to do that. So, yeah. But hopefully we don't get too much wind. And there's not a whole lot new to report here. We're going to walk around and we're going to look at some of this cool stuff. Maybe we'll go check in with Jeff over there at the end. And then we've also got, at the end of the far end over there, we've got a community who's shown up today. So I'll introduce you to him in just a little bit. And Carnotaurus says, does the rain have the potential to mess with the fossils in the ground or the jacketed specimen? Mostly the fossils that are still in the ground, yeah. So we took off some of the shade tarps last night in order to be able to protect these things from the rain. So we've got our new fish from yesterday is right there underneath. I might uncover that later, we'll see. But this stuff really swells up when it gets wet. This mudstone here it's funny, doesn't seem to be any bentonite in it, so it doesn't, bentonitic mud is really mud that's got volcanic ash inside of it, has a tendency to really swell up and deform, and it's just awful stuff when it gets wet. This doesn't seem to have bentonite in it yet. So some of the might have been nice and flat last night before it started raining, but it gets water in it and it kind of swells up and starts to buckle. So that's what. Actually, speaking of this, walking around, and this basically amounts to like a rain-proof trench coat. So let me take this off here and use it to cover up some of my equipment in case we do get a few drizzles. That'll stay dry. Hang on just a second, chat. Let me attend to that. Yeah, very smart. Well, thank you, Nell. I appreciate that. Yeah. And letting you use them. I don't know what you mean, Crimson Carnotaurus. What do you mean by them? All right, let's put this right here. That. Take this off here. Let's hope it stays sunny like this and help everything dry out better. There. There we are, that's better. Yeah. There we go. Much better. Now, if it starts raining or if the wind gets really bad, I'll have to go get that again, but for now it'll be good. Let's see. And is that a whip? What do you mean now? What? Emma says, "Whoa, hello, paleontology. This is so cool. Yeah, welcome to Paleontologizing." I just did my little again so soon, but let's go take a look at some of the work going on down there. And give me just a minute. Let me readjust my phone strap here so it's not wobbling around too much. Trying to optimize things as best I can. There we go. Much better. Yeah. Anywho. Okay. Long black cord thing on your bag. You mean the camera cables now? This right here? Yeah. Camera cables connecting the camera to the encoder and the batteries. Yeah. And technically just Emma says, I'm a zoologist. I only dreamed of showcasing some of my field work I used to do. Now I primarily work in vet med. Very cool. Love that you're doing this. This is awesome. Thank you. No, this is, believe it or not, what I do full time. This is how I make my living nowadays. This is how I fund my research and my field work and how I do outreach at the same time. I do paleontology live streams 4 days a week when I'm back home, but when I'm out in the field, I try and do them every day. 7 days a week. I'll be doing a ton of field work this summer. A couple months worth of field work. So that'll be a solid 60 or 70 streams maybe. So I'm excited. And we're doing some bonus ones before the summer even starts. I'm in St. George, Utah, helping out with this emergency fossil excavation, trying to also get the word out about this, get people excited, get people to volunteer. All that good stuff. Yeah, a very time-sensitive project because this extraordinarily important fossil site here is slated to be destroyed in, well, maybe as few as as short as just a few weeks from now. Yeah, it's not a great situation. So we're trying to do whatever we can to get these fossils out of the ground. Oh, and let me go grab my visual aids too before I forget, then we'll go take a look. Sorry, lots of fits and starts here. But I just know I'm going to get some questions that these images will be able to answer better than I could by describing the stuff verbally. Alright, where did I put that? Hang on just a minute. Hopefully we don't lose the signal as I look in here. There we go. There we go. Okay. Yeah. And yeah. Alex Non-Binary says, why will it be destroyed? Well, okay. Let me explain, I guess. This is a really, really important fossil site dating back to the earliest Jurassic period, 200 million years ago, in St. George, Utah. Across the street from us over there is the St. George Dinosaur Discovery Site Museum. That museum is built like a over these incredible fossil trackways. So we've got of dinosaurs, of ancient crocodile relatives, swim traces from fishes, and we've got fossil plants and invertebrate tracks and burrows and all kinds of incredible stuff over there. Really, really cool. Now, since that museum was built on site, that gives you some indication that there's, you know, those beds extend across the road over here and into the surrounding area. Basically, it continues that same horizon there. And there's a lot of the same stuff. Sometimes, in some ways, this is even more incredible because we've got so many fossil fishes from in here. We've got the bones and teeth of different dinosaurs in here. We've got more invertebrate burrows and the remains of things like coelacanths and freshwater sharks from this ancient lake here. All of this land over here belongs to the city of St. George, and it was originally given to the city in order for the city to preserve it for future generations, to make sure that these fossils are safe and they could be studied by scientists and enjoyed. But since this town of St. George is growing so rapidly, so many people are moving here, people are having a lot of kids, etc., etc., the city's decided, oh, we're going to destroy part of this and build an electrical substation here in order to, I don't know, more efficiently deliver electricity. I really wish they could have picked a different spot because this is smack dab on top of one of the most important fossil sites in North America, frankly. So that's why we're here trying to excavate all this, because the city has decided they're going to pave paradise and put up a parking lot, so to speak. Does that make sense? Yeah. Anywho, and there you go, Lenina. Yeah, we're still holding out hope that maybe something will change. Maybe the people at the city will change their minds, pick a different site for this. But for the time being, we're told we've got less than 2 weeks now to try and get whatever we can out of here. So it's a race against the clock. That being said, let's go. Let's go talk to some folks. Let's go look at some of these fossils. Yeah. And that makes sense. Yeah, there you go, Alex. Thanks for asking. Yeah. So, let's go take a look over here. And we'll go check in with Oh, wait. Oh, maybe he's not here right now. I guess Jeff is over at the museum helping with some stuff. But those of you who were here for the last few streams will recognize some of this. We still got some of these big fossil fish. They're inside of these protective plaster and burlap jackets here. And we might have some new fishes today. We'll have to ask around and see what we've got. Let's see. Here, can I bug you for a second, Pearl?
Go for it.
Yeah. Anything?
Need to finish digging out this guy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if we saw this one last time.
Yeah, it's just a little guy, though. You haven't seen any bone in it so far, but I'm also not a professional, so I'm just trying to dig around this whole thing so we can cast it.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, chat. Sometimes these red splodges right here denote like, hey, there's a fish under there. So anytime you see something like that, it bears a closer look.
Yeah, and there's probably stuff under here, but since it's so perfect on top.
Yeah, it's really nice. I mean,
I'm not gonna touch
there
it.
could be an absolutely pristine fish underneath.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice work.
Thanks.
Let's see. Maybe I can uncover that one that we found yesterday and take a look at that. But yeah, that looks like a promising spot. Yeah, we actually, those of you who were here at the end of yesterday's stream might remember that Dustin was digging over here and started finding, bits of fishes deeper than anybody had been digging before. And so that tells us that this area, which before was seeming kind of barren, the stuff is just a little bit deeper over here. Let's pull this off. And this is the one that we were really worried about last night with all the rain, because we didn't have a chance to really trench around it to make a makeshift moat. But we were uncovering this right at the end of yesterday's stream. There we are, and it's looking better than I had feared. This is good.
Ontogeny.
Yeah, okay. So this is the one where looks like we might have a bit of a skull over here, and then a weird finny thing going on there, and you can see some of those scales right here. We were wondering what sort of fish it might be because it looked pretty bizarre earlier, but we found some of those telltale scales that seem to indicate that it's a semi-anodid fish. It's one of these guys. These are the most common fish in the quarry so far. They've got these cool ganoid armor scales all over their bodies. And they're not particularly close to any living groups of fishes except for we've got gar. But these guys they've diverged from gar probably, oh goodness, would have been maybe 220 million years ago or something like that. Anyhow, pretty cool. These guys are probably indirectly responsible for a lot of the dinosaur material that we're finding here at the quarry too. The footprints and the body fossils, because we have evidence that dinosaurs were coming in here and swimming around trying to eat these fishes. This would have been an excellent source of food for some of your theropod dinosaurs here. Like this little guy. So, pretty cool stuff. Yeah. And get the rock saw, says Jag Money. So, we don't have anybody to operate the rock saw right. Big delivery of plaster just being made to the museum. 100 bags of plaster. And so, Andrew is kind of leading the charge on that, unloading those and trying to find spots for all of this. And also, unfortunately, trying to figure out which bags of plaster are going to be usable, because I guess they were on the back of a truck driving here and then they got rained on. Again, we're having all these weather issues today. And so, as those of you who've used plaster of Paris before, you know that when you get it wet, it starts to set up. So it's, yeah. So they're going to have to figure out how many of those are usable, but holy cow, we've got some good news here. Hang on just a second, chat. Let me respond. Can we get a shout out for Science Streams? Balint and Lita's baby just arrived. Balint just texted me right now. So huge congratulations to the Science family. Baby time, yes indeed. Yeah. We just raided into them, what was it? Not last night, but the night before. Holy moly. I hope it's okay that I'm announcing this right now, but I'm just really excited for my friends. Yeah. Congratulations to them. Balint and Lita are some of my favorite. Yeah, they're doing good work in the world, and they've got a brand new baby. I'm overjoyed for them. I was just talking to Balint on the phone earlier today, and they weren't sure when the baby was going to be born, and it's now. That's amazing. So huge congrats to them. Holy cow. Means little Ilona is going to have a baby brother. She's no longer going to be. She's going to be big sister Ilona, and that's really exciting. Balint and Lita they're also looking at some point to go full-time here on Twitch. For those of you who are not familiar with Science Streams, Balint and Lita are a married couple of research scientists, and they stream here on Twitch like 6 or 7 days a week. It's incredible. They're doing really, really good science outreach. They're molecular and systems biologists, and but they cover all different kinds of science on their channel, and they would love to be able to go full-time. Can to help make that possible for them, you know, promoting their work as much as I can. Hello. Yeah. We might try and do some sort of a full-time push before too long to try and make that possible for them to be able to pivot to science outreach full-time. The job market's not great for scientists right now, especially here in the US. And if they can use their scientific acumen and their outreach skills to be able to move to full-time science education online, that would be phenomenal for them. Anyhow, let's see. Increase the science fam. Yes, indeed, Fedora. Sorry. Yeah. And King and Nippy says, I'd really love to go on a fossil dig, but I'll definitely settle for more streams like this. You're going to have a lot more streams like this summer. Yeah, it's... we're going to be doing a lot of this, and I'm excited about it. Anyway, I'm not really... threw me for a loop. Let me go get some water, collect my thoughts for a minute, but I'm just really happy for Balint and Lita. Was not expecting we're streaming today. That's a huge deal. Holy cow. They might also have like a wish list going for all kinds of baby stuff. So if anybody has a link to that, don't hesitate to share it. Yeah. Holy moly. Yeah, let's drink some water. Oh, and then I'll talk for a minute about some background information on this site, because we haven't done that yet today. So again, for anybody just joining us, or anybody who's kind of new to this today, welcome to St. George, Utah. Welcome to our emergency fossil dig. We're trying to excavate whatever we can here before the city decides, well, before the city brings the bulldozers in and just demolishes this, because they're going to build an electrical substation here, right on top of one of the most important Jurassic fossil sites in North America. This environment here is a part of what we call ancient Lake Whitmore. And here is a diagram showing that right here. So this was an enormous freshwater lake right here, stretching from southern Utah into northern Arizona 200 million years ago. This lake was around for a long time. We're talking about hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years. One of the Great Lakes, like maybe Lake Erie. And through this lake swam dinosaurs. Everybody loves to hear about the dinosaurs, including me. We've got footprints from them. We've got swim tracks, which show these dinosaurs kicking their feet along the muddy bottom of the lake, leaving these kind of streaky marks. I'll show you some of those if I remember later. We've got residents of the lake, like these semi-anodid fishes, which we're finding all over the place. We've got at least, we think, 3 new species, if not 4 of these guys that are coming out that we found during this excavation. So these are species that are brand new to science. Very excited about that. We've got coelacanths, like this. This is Chinlea, which is from just before this time, from the late Triassic. The one that we have here, yeah. Burial might be different from this. We coelacanth here. We're still kind of figuring that out. So these are these awesome fishes that are very close to the origin of tetrapods. Tetrapods are your land-living vertebrate animals, your amphibians, your reptiles, your mammals. They're all tetrapods, and they all evolved from a critter that looks not too different from this. Or this. This is a lungfish right here. This is a representation of Ceratodus. It looks a lot like your modern Australian lungfish. And there have been a few tantalizing pieces of lungfish found here recently too. Some of which are currently being worked on in the state, I was going to say in the state capital. Makes it sound like they're being worked on under the rotunda. But no, the capital city of Utah, Salt Lake City. They've got a wonderful natural history museum there. And some of the preparators are already working on some of the lungfish material from here. Very important. And that's a high priority. We've also got freshwater sharks. We'll see some teeth and hopefully some spines of these guys today. These hypodonts. These are... You think shark and you think of a big, fearsome animal. This isn't quite like that. These guys were a little bit smaller. They're probably in danger of being eaten by coelacanths sometimes. Yeah. They're pretty neat, though. And it's very cool to find their teeth and their spines here. And, of course, there's your dinosaurs. There's a big theropod dinosaur leaving some footprints in the mud. We've got footprints from from several different kinds of dinosaur here, including some of those big Eubrontes tracks. Eubrontes are the large tracks that look like this, right here. They're more rare than the Growliter tracks, which are smaller, much more common. The majority of the dinosaur tracks we have from here are Growliter, but there's some Eubrontes there as well. And yeah, so this site is so wonderful because it's a snapshot into what life was like back in the, well, not a single snapshot. It's a whole photo album of what life was like to beginning of the Jurassic period. This is because this is just after Earth suffered a mass extinction event. So it's like the majority of species on Earth died out just before this, and new species are starting to evolve, occupy these empty niches. Lineages are starting to diversify. We've got an adaptive radiation going on. This fossil assemblage here kind of records some of that. So if we want to figure out how does Earth recover from mass extinctions, and also who died versus who survived, sites like this are really, really important. Anywho, very, very cool. But yeah. Let's go talk to Boss Man over there. I just saw Andrew has returned. Cross your fingers that most of the plaster is salvageable, and yeah. Well, and that his tent is too. It's got blown down earlier, and yeah. Well, we'll leave him to it for a minute. We'll go walk around over here for a bit. Let's see. Here's Jeff getting to work trying to find some more fishes.
Yeah.
Any luck so far? Is it still wet underneath?
It is a little bit damp, but probably not enough to be a problem.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I just started here, so far,
yeah.
Nothing except little isolated scales, but there are a lot of them.
Yeah.
All over the
It's a
place.
good sign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay.
Did you happen to show them the layers?
No, shoot.
Oh, yeah, we should check that out.
Yeah, we should totally check that out. Yeah, for anybody who's just joining us, or if you weren't here last time, this is Jeff Martz from Texas Tech.
Yes.
Curator of paleontology at the Museum of Texas Tech. Very cool. So, Jeff here is a big shot, and we're lucky that he's talking to us. Jurassic, so hopefully this doesn't feel like any kind of a betrayal working on more recent stuff. Oh wow! Shoot,
They're everywhere in that
that's
southern.
just a big old centipede there.
Yeah, they're everywhere in that southern Parkway
wow.
pile. This is the third one that I found.
Nice. It's a big one too.
Yeah, it is.
Holy cow!
Have you seen the? So I believe I could be wrong, but I think this is the giant desert centipede.
Yeah, looks like it.
So these ones can get up to about a foot in length, can't they?
I actually don't know. I've only ever seen them slightly smaller. This is probably the biggest one I've ever seen.
Really?
But there was one when I was camping out in Warner Valley last time I was here a few weeks ago. I took some pictures of one and logged it to iNaturalist. And yeah, giant desert centipede. Pretty neat.
Yeah.
It's pretty chill too.
Yeah, it's not some. It's one of the few things that I don't enjoy necessarily holding.
Yeah.
Because
I don't think I would want to hold it.
You know, they scare. Yeah, they scare me.
Yeah. And they can't sting, right?
Not they
sting?
can't sting. They can bite,
Okay.
and it is a venomous bite. So
Yeah.
it's about 48 hours in constant fire.
Get bitten. Be
Yeah.
careful with that thing.
Yeah.
Thanks for showing us. All right. Oh boy. Nice.
So this is part of one of the blocks of fish that came out. That Andrew cut out using the rock saw. But he happened to, when he was using the rock saw to cut it out, he happened to cut off this really nice little block.
It's really nice.
And this is cool because it actually shows you a cross section through the sediments in which we're finding the fish. And these are very, very fine-grained sediments, like silt and clay sized sediment, which usually indicates a deposition in very quiet water conditions. But but you may notice that there's kind of alternating bluer and whiter layers. They're very, very thin, and those whiter layers are slightly sandier, so they're coarser grained. So what that suggests is you get this alternation between extremely quiet water conditions, and then occasionally something a little more high energy will happen as a somewhat coarser sediment is washed into the lake. And perfectly continuous, you may see that they kind of lens in and out, but it's interesting because these look a little bit like varves, and varves are a feature that you see oftentimes in ancient lake sediments, and they usually indicate some kind of seasonal change in deposition.
Right. So
in the case of varves, if that's what these really are, then each basically set of blue and white layers would represent 1 year of deposition, which is kind of neat. Because and this is have been famously documented in a lot of detail in the eastern part of North America during the Triassic and Jurassic. Over there, you've got these sediments called the Newark Supergroup, which are lacustrine lake sediments. And in those, these alternating dark and light layers are very well documented, and they've actually been used to very precisely calibrate the actual number of years over which the lake was deposited.
Yeah.
And that's a high level of precision that is very hard to get any other way. Especially when you're talking about stuff that's millions of years old. So these are kind of neat, and I don't know if these are actually true varves, but that sort of appearance. Very interested to get the opinion of someone like Paul Olson at Columbia or somebody else who studied these and see what his opinion is.
So you think we might be able to use this to basically figure out the sedimentation rate here?
You could theoretically do that, yeah. You could get some idea, at least for the lower part of the section. And of course, there's no guarantee that sedimentation rate would be perfectly constant all the way up. Sure. But if this is overall mostly lacustrine deposition, then
mostly
maybe
a lake,
you could get some approximation for how long it took to deposit at least some of the beds.
Nice. Do you suspect that, like, this continues? Like, it's not like we just got lucky here, and you've got potential varves in this part here. This would continue down further and further and further, right?
It could. At least
it's not like this is an abnormal thing.
Yeah, at least in these blue, relatively unaltered by soil forming processes.
Yeah.
As we've talked about before, like these upper beds that are more times have kind of reddish and grayish mottled appearance. That indicates soil development.
Churned up.
Yeah, with plant roots and critters crawling through the sediment, and that will usually destroy very, very fine bedding like this.
Right.
So probably we couldn't do this for the entire unit, but it's kind of neat to think that at least for some beds you potentially could.
Right. That's so cool. Get another close-up of that.
Yeah, they're neat. So we might use the rock saw and try and cut a few other pieces like this, because I mean, this looks great just because of how perfectly it was cut. But we could probably polish this up a bit, put some kind of varnish or something on it to kind of make it really pop out. I had just put a little bit of water on there before I showed it to you, just to darken it up a bit, because it really makes the layers kind of pop.
Yeah.
So yeah, pretty neat.
Super cool. Thanks for showing us. This is
sure thing.
Really cool.
Yeah, I just thought that was really neat.
And it also kind of highlights just like different specialists at the site. It takes all different kinds of researchers, people who work on fossil fish, people who work on sedimentation, stratigraphers and, paleoichthyologists, and I'm repeating myself here, but you get the idea. There's so many different things at this site, and there's so many different ways of trying to figure out what this ancient environment was like. It's pretty cool. It's pretty darn cool.
So if you're someone who's interested in becoming a geologist or a paleontologist, there's no shortage of things for you to work on.
Absolutely.
Paleontology is such a huge multidisciplinary study, and like one thing we've been discussing with Andrew is like for many of these groups of plants and animals we're interested in studying here, there's very few specialists. So, for example, like the big expert on early Mesozoic fossil plants, the guy who probably did more work than anybody was a guy named Sid Ash, who passed away a few years ago. He had an extremely long career, but there really hasn't been anyone to take over his place. And of course, in any ecosystem, plants are the most overwhelmingly abundant form of life you see. And yet, for this period of time, we don't really have anyone who specializes in that type of organism, at least not in the Western United States. So. If anyone's interested in paleobotany, we need a paleobotanist, so get your degree, and we'll wait around for you to come out here.
Give us a call, yeah.
Work on our plans.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. Very cool. Yeah. Really, really neat. Yeah. And do we have Jim here in the chat? Yeah. Jim, it's good to see you. Jim says Upper Lake Cycle certainly has interbedding. Oh, better bedding. Salinity variations with fish kills. Nice. Cool. Yeah. Wave depletion says, need any paleo programmers? Honestly, yes. Year after year, we've got more and more tools, computer-based tools, for paleontological research. Things like cladistics, things like, all kinds of statistical methods and things like that. That program R is the bane of the existence of many a grad student in paleontology. So anyway, if you're really good at R, if you really like that kind of thing, you could co-author papers with different paleontologists potentially. Like, we need all different kinds of people working with us, Like Jeff was saying, paleontology is very interdisciplinary. Yeah. And Dark Elite says, can slabs be cut out to be checked or excavated later since there won't be time to dig it? All that's out there? Yes, Dark Elite, that's what we're trying to do. So these big blocks that are right here, we've set aside, and we might be able to look at these off-site later. If end up becoming an electrical substation, like we've been talking about. So yeah. we've also got a lot of other stuff piled up over there too, so we're doing what we can, you know? Yeah. And let's see. And somebody was asking about dates there. Peter NL Game says 200 million years ago, Europe and North America will run big continent. Yeah, but that's just as Pangea is starting to begin the process of breaking apart. Where all of Earth's major landmasses were all clumped together. Our word for that today is Pangea. And then Panthalassa is all ocean on the other side of the planet. If I were back home in my office, I'd show you a globe with all of this stuff. But yeah. There have been several supercontinents over the course of Earth history that we know about. We've got various ways of figuring this out, not just the shape of the continents, but also doing things like paleomag and like looking at fossil faunas and stuff like that too. But there have been a few times. The continents are always drifting around, and sometimes they all clump up together, and then they break apart again. And the last time that happened, it was called we call it today Pangea. And that was just about when the first dinosaurs were evolving, back in the Triassic period. And at the beginning of the Jurassic, the rocks represented here, it's just starting to break apart. So, yeah. Does that make sense? Gondwana land. Yeah, so Timmer's Crunch. Gondwana land was the southern breaks apart, and then our name for the northern Pangea. It's North America, Europe, and Asia. We call that Laurasia. The southern continents we call Gondwana. That's South America, Africa, Australia, Antarctica, Madagascar, and India too. Used to be part of Gondwana. Sometimes it's called Gondwana land too, but you don't have to say the land part. Most people don't. But anywho, yeah. And there you go, yeah. Jim says, the North Atlantic ripping open gave us the giant Central Atlantic Magmatic Province, or camp, to help kill off the Triassic faunas. We were talking about that yesterday with Jeff. How it's volcanism is the prime culprit for the end Triassic mass extinction event. So what Jim is talking about here, we can see in this little inset here. So Laurasia, Gondwana, with together they are Pangea, but there is that magmatic province there, and tons of volcanoes erupting, just massive out, and lots of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases there. Changed the climate, and that was too dramatic and too fast for a lot of different organisms to adapt, and they went extinct. That seems to be what happened at the end of the Triassic. I'm oversimplifying by just a little bit, but, I'm trying to get these ideas across in a concise way. Yeah. And, yeah. Oh, and Icane, hello to you. Welcome. Good to have you here. Let's see. And there you go, Rhacodactylus, yeah. So much of science outreach is just like trying to simplify things without making them be too wrong, Yeah. Huh.
You just threw it in a box earlier. Yes.
Andrew's looking for his hat. Nice.
See, you threw it in a box earlier.
I knew exactly where it was.
Oh,
Now your camera ready.
You still have that first one?
Yes.
Yeah, because the hair isn't.
I think that's a pretty good one, is it not?
Yeah, it
So-
is.
How did the plaster delivery
I'm
go?
actually gonna go grab
Good.
my hand
There's
lens.
quite a
I
few
will be
wet
right
bags,
back.
but luckily there's a plastic liner on the inside.
Oh, okay,
so
great.
It looks like some stuff might be
I'll be
ruined,
right
but there's
back.
still good plaster.
Nice,
So,
okay.
100 bags of plaster delivered. There's 25-pound bags.
Wow.
That's a lot of plaster.
Wow. 2,500 pounds of plaster.
Yep.
that'll last us a long time. Holy cow.
Yeah. Well, we're going to lose some because of the wetness. So Ethan, the guy that drove it down from Orem, and of course the company up there donated it. And
you got rained on.
Driving through a snowstorm the whole way, pretty much.
Oh boy.
All the way to Cedar City.
So
just 40 minutes north. That's a long drive.
Yeah.
And he's basically right now checking out the museum.
Oh, nice.
He's going to come over and visit quickly at the quarry.
Very cool.
Basically a turn and burn and go straight back.
Nice. Okay. So we'll have a chance to thank him then, at least.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, excellent.
You should maybe chat with him.
Yeah, for sure. Cool.
Great donation.
Yeah, phenomenal. We go through so much plaster here and making these protective jackets for the fossils. And honestly, water's not the worst. Remember one year we were up at Rudyard in northern Montana. We were stored in a barn, and these cats decided to pee all over them.
Oh no!
That's
terrible.
Just reaching into the bags when we're trying to make jackets, and there's a big clump of hardened plaster. Just smells like cat pee. It was awful.
That sounds really bad.
So yeah. Anyway, yeah. We were just talking with Jeff about that rock saw cut showing the different layers. Really cool stuff.
Very cool. And I'd like to get samples like that. So these are all this we can.
Really neat.
There's talk about trying to get a core. Like a 10-foot core driller.
Nice.
And do holes through here and over in Freeman quarries for comparison. I think that'd be really useful information.
Nice. Yeah, it'd be neat to be able to, I don't know, trying to envision this ancient lake here, and this being the shore, northern shore of the lake, basically.
Yeah, pretty amazing.
Yeah, I feel like a core could really help with that. Neat stuff. Yeah, you could tell we're tired right now. Shoot. It's been a weird day, too, with all the rain and everything, and oh boy. Yeah.
Where's what?
The inventory book.
I'd like to see him 3D print the best of.
Anyway.
Sorry, Danny.
What's that?
Sorry, Danny.
Huh?
Sorry.
No, not a problem at all. Yeah.
Sorry.
Let's see. And what time does Andrew get there, says Halle Berry? What do you mean? You slept here last night, like I did.
Your hat's on your head.
It's been, all hands on deck here. No time to commute. Sleeping here at the site. Some of us are actually sleeping, literally in the quarry on the ground. Yeah. Andrew lives here. Yeah. No, we were talking the first night. It's actually a new development this past week. Andrew and I set up our tents at the same time, and the first night of him sleeping here, he was I don't know, he was telling me in the morning later, that was incredibly weird. It just feels surreal, waking up at the site. The museum is across the street. He said he opened up a flap in his tent and he was looking out and there's the museum. He's it was something out of a weird dream or something like that. People talk about how they feel like they live at work. And he's literally doing that. Because Andrew's been here since the very beginning of the scientific work, in this whole area. Back when the track site was first discovered, right around the year 2000. He's been here since the beginning of that. 25 years later, we've got a museum there, and we've got this project, and it's just, it's a lot. The man deserves a vacation at the end of this thing. We'll see if he gets it. But yeah. Can you guys sleep inside the museum? We were thinking about it last night, Deathsaurus, with all of the rain that we were getting, but luckily it only lasted for a couple hours. So we came back. It was very muddy, but at least it wasn't raining anymore. And that was our evening. Yeah. Best job you ever had, says Freelancer? Maybe. Yeah, probably. But Andrew's worked at a lot of different fossil sites before, including world-famous Burgess Shale. I think he actually named one of his sons Burgess after the Burgess Shale. But yeah, really famous Cambrian fossil site. All these weird Cambrian critters. He worked there up at Yoho National Park in Canada. Yeah. How far have they dug down by comparison? That's a good question, Jody Fish. We were discussing that. Yeah. We're still figuring some of this stuff out. But yeah.
We all do.
And hey, Coffee Rocks, how are you doing? Welcome, welcome. Good to have you here. Let's see. David to show us that cool track that he found earlier. Yeah. There was, in the discard pile, David found a swim tray. Let's see. David, can we bug you for a minute? Maybe after you found what you're looking for?
I'm looking for that track. I had that kid pull up here.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we'd love to see it when you find it.
I said to sit I'm at that table, but we got 2 others here. I don't know where it went. It's not spectacular, but it's a full print.
Oh, nice.
Oh, I bet you can put it over here. It looks like it over here at the end. By the swim track. But it's a big, thick one. Yeah. But kind of got to get just the right light to even see it.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So
I see a middle toe right there.
Yeah.
Right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
it's better than
There's the
standing
heel
her
right.
up. You can see the pads and all
Nice.
3 nails.
Yeah.
So
Very cool. Another Grawlator, presumably.
yeah, anything that size for sure. Yep.
Grawlator right here. Grawlator right there.
Another day,
Textbook.
another day, another fossil saved.
Yeah. Nicely done. Can we take a look at that swim track that you had earlier too, or did that get put in the museum already?
Since I found it over in that pile, I
Yeah.
said this can't happen, and I stuck it in his truck. And
Nice.
when
So it's safe in the
had
museum?
loaded- It's safe in the museum.
Good. Okay.
It was a really nice full strike,
Yeah.
which a lot of times, especially over there, they're not isolated.
Uh-huh.
And there's lots of other strikes, but there were only a couple tiny marks from a strike from a completely different direction. So that's important. A lot of these are not as clear as that one.
Huh.
But it's all underneath that pile.
Yeah.
Right there, and,
It's our 17th track layer, I think Andrew was saying. Number 17 is under the fish bed. That's the newest one.
he's our numbers
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
17.
So I can't wait to get in there. I've been waiting ever since I found that pile. I've been like, get that fish out of the way.
Yeah.
I know I shouldn't be like that, but I'm a tracks lover first and foremost. So
Understandable. Yeah.
I want to see more. We can go slowly and pick up bigger blocks and
Yeah.
figure a lot of information out that we can't through a bunch of pieces.
Yeah. Oh, Jaleesa, you're getting some compliments on your shirt too.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I was just
Very osteological. Yeah.
working her to the bone.
Yeah, really. All right. Maybe we'll go check in with one of our community members over here.
Nice.
But the one day that I did, because I was frustrated up there,
Let's see.
I found a fish right on it.
Don't want to interrupt their conversation. Oh, interesting, Jody Fish. Thank you, Nelf. Tuesday the 22nd, Utah Tech University And St. George is holding a STEM fest. I can ask if they know about that already. I bet you they do. But let's go ask. I think Diana might be the person to ask about that. Usually she's in charge of this kind of thing, I think. But we'll ask Julissa too. Yeah. Here. Julissa, we had another question from the chat. Somebody's talking about a STEM fest in St. George at Utah Tech.
Yes, I believe that. I don't know when that's happening, actually.
Somebody said the 22nd, but they were just wondering if we've got any representation there for the site. Yeah.
I can confirm. Let me text my.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Cool. For asking about that. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. And there you go, Jody Fish. Yeah, thank you. Let's see. Nelf was asking me about that. Yes. Oh, cool, Claire. Okay. Earth Day is Dinosaurs Day. Is today Earth Day? Very cool. It's my favorite planet. And most of my best friends live there. Damage Control says, how do you all know where to dig? We dig where the fossils are. In this case, we can actually ask Andrew maybe to tell us the story about how this site was first discovered. Because he actually found this particular site, but that's the tricky thing, is when I say site, like, are we talking about this one specific spot? Because all of this is contiguous. This extends all the way across the road to the museum over there. So, are these the same site? You could make an argument that they are. But this whole area is just covered with tracks from dinosaurs, from ancient crocodilian relatives, from swim traces from fishes and all kinds of stuff, and then all these fossil bones and scales and teeth from a lot of the same critters too. But yeah, it was originally discovered by an optometrist. It's a cool story. I'll maybe let Andrew tell you in a little bit. But that was back around the year 2000. And ever since then, year after year, they've been making more discoveries and just trying to kind of expand the science here, use it as a teaching tool to get paleontology, and it's been working. The extent to which this whole project has grown has been really, really cool. And I mean, one good thing about this less than great situation, with the electrical substation being built here, the site being slated to be destroyed, is that sense of urgency has really brought people together. And there's so much enthusiasm here. The museum is hopefully going to have more volunteers and more donations afterward. The parking lot over there has been full, like, basically all day at the museum across the street. It's been good. Getting articles in the newspaper, people talking about this. It's been a good thing. And I've been trying to contribute to that in whatever way I can. You know, that's why we're streaming from here. Silent Speaker 01, thank you for the raid. Welcome to Paleontologizing. It's good to have you here. Yeah, it's a silent raid. Okay, shh, I'll be quiet though. Welcome, raiders, to Paleontologizing. My name is Danny Anduza. I'm a dinosaur paleontologist. I'm here trying to drum up some support, encourage people to volunteer, donate, whatever they can do to help out with this project here in St. George, Utah. We are trying to excavate as many of these super important fossils as we can before this site gets bulldozed by the city. So, yeah, that's what we're doing here. Welcome. I hope you had a good stream, Silent Speaker. Oh, playing some Hollow Knight. Cool. I know that game. I've seen iOS play that a long time ago. Cool game. Really neat aesthetics to it. Yeah. Anyhow. Yeah. If anybody's got any questions at all about what's going on here, about what this environment was like 200 million years ago at the beginning of the Jurassic period, don't hesitate with those questions. And I've got some visual aids here. This is a lovely kind of tableau showing a swimming coelophysoid type dinosaur with some fishes all around and that kind of thing. This is the remains of an ancient lake here, and we're finding all kinds of lakey critters, different fishes, both bony and cartilaginous. So bony fishes and sharks here too. Yeah, footprints and the occasional bones and teeth of dinosaurs as well. All kinds of awesome stuff. Invertebrates, plants, you name it, it's here. It's a pretty special place. Yeah. Lakey critter hype. There you go, Jill Draco. Yeah. Any reptiles other than traces? Yeah, we've got dinosaur teeth and some very intriguing bones that are being cleaned up in the lab soon, but they're likely the bones of other dinosaurs too. All kinds of cool stuff. Yeah. Yeah. And XVR, I was waiting for an opportunity to go talk to you. Looked like you were busy. I didn't want to interrupt. I just found a fish. If you want to pop over, let's do it. We were talking about people from the community showing up to help out here. People from, not the community of St. George, but from the Paleontologizing community. People around this channel. XVR is one of those, and he's here today. I just met him this morning. Let's go take a look at this fish that he's just found. This is breaking news. Let's go have a look. All right. Yeah. Hey, thanks for typing into the chat.
Oh, no problem.
Awesome.
Also had to keep my watch streak going.
There you go. Yeah. Nice. What are you up to now?
So we just.
Oh, for the watch streak, I meant.
Oh, say what?
For the watch streak.
I think I'm back up to 11 or 12 after
Nice.
the 96 ended.
Oh shoot! Yeah, that's frustrating. I'm sorry.
Hey, it's all for the betterment of the science community on Twitch.
Yeah.
So nothing wrong with it.
But very nice. Look at that.
So this is just the top coverage. At least I identified that as that. So the fish is still in here.
Excellent. So we haven't lost any fish in the counterpart there. That's
No.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This whole thing came off as a single shelf, and that I've noticed has happened a lot. So I'll pick up. I'm like, I hope something's under here, and then there's nothing.
Yeah.
And this time there actually was.
Nice.
So I'm working on getting this a little bit cleaned here, trying not to get too much off because obviously the fish is still in there.
Yeah.
But it was a stain a ways up until we got down and started seeing the scales and stuff.
Nice. Very cool. So yeah, for anybody who's just joining us, often these red splotches indicate that there's something big and organic underneath, like for instance a fish. And that's exactly what we've got here. Really, really cool. And really convenient spot too, because
right,
1/4 of your trenching already done.
Right? Yeah, that does make it nice.
It's nice.
Excellent.
Yep. But yeah, there's some of the concretions. And let's see, I thought I had a couple set aside over here that I'd come across. A few little bones, things like that. But so a lot of times it'll look like this when we first pull it out.
Yeah.
This is
that subtle indication on top. It can be, your clue that man, I should really dig in here.
Fish were right next to each other, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they were right next to each other around death, unless
they might be different layers. I don't know.
Yeah, it might be lightly different layers.
Yeah, could be.
Yeah, because looking at these, how much? If you were looking at, let's say, a half of a millimeter, how much time could
we're trying to figure that out. So that's one of the things that Jeff is doing over there. Did you see his?
There like a fish fossil maybe currently behind that.
There almost certainly will be if we, yeah. At least somewhere in this area, yeah.
If we have the time and the resources.
Let's hope we can get in there, you know.
Unfortunately, they don't come with time labels on them.
Exactly, yeah, yeah.
That would make it almost too easy.
Yeah. But Jeff has got a really cool sample over there if you get a chance to look. So when Andrew was doing some rock sawing, there was just a really, really clean cut, and you can actually see all of the little layers in there. Maybe even some varves. Just like that, yeah, exactly, yeah. In fact, it might even be from right there.
From the same layer?
It probably is, yeah.
It would make sense to...
Because that is really clean right there, yeah.
Yeah.
So...
Mark of a good rock saw.
Yeah. And a good operator, yeah.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, he's amazing with that thing.
Yeah.
Oh man, he when he gets in there, you can tell he's enjoying that.
Yeah, for sure.
So.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm just gonna work.
Also, get your shirt too, because I feel like chat would enjoy that.
Yeah, I'll stand up for that.
It's a very Twitch-coded shirt right there. I think that's a three-toed sloth and a Jurassic World style Tyrannosaurus. Very nice.
Yep. But the laser beams are custom.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, I didn't put them on there, but they had to be genetically modified in.
Gotcha. Yeah. That's not standard there.
No.
That's an optional feature.
Absolutely.
Oh, very nice. Today's going to be a good day. It is going to be a good day.
There you go.
Nice.
That's a good choice too. I like that.
Thanks for sharing. Awesome. Laser beams are historically accurate, says I Can Pound It. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Well, we know they were blue and pink from the evidence.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah. All right, thanks for calling me over. This is really cool. Good luck with that. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
So exciting to see one right next to another fish.
Yeah, and this is my first fish find on day 4. So I showed you the teeth earlier, and then I had a shark's tooth that I found, some nice scales. I still have this one that I showed you earlier.
The beautiful one.
Let me dust that real quickly. Get a little bit of that off.
The sheen on that is just gorgeous.
Yeah, it's
really pretty.
Usually when I found them there, I'm finding the middle of the scale, and like half is on this side and half. But this one,
sometimes you get real lucky and you get that
fully intact,
pristine surface. Awesome. Thanks for sharing.
Sure.
Very cool. We'll check back in a little bit to see how it's going.
Sounds good. I'm gonna up a little bit around, but obviously can't get too close.
Yeah. All right. Let's see here. Beautiful skill. I'm glad that. I hope that you really got to see the glint on it. I hope I held the camera at the right angle to be able to see that reflectivity. Just gorgeous. Yeah. I need a banana. There you go, Charlie's Dragon. We had some questions earlier about how sites like this get discovered. And so maybe we can go bug Andrew for a minute and ask him about that. Have him tell the story of Sheldon Johnson and kind of how this whole thing got kicked off 20 years ago at this point? Yeah. Can we bug you for a second? Can you tell us the story, Andrew?
What kind of story would you like to hear?
How this whole site got discovered in the first place. Maybe with Sheldon Johnson and...
since the very beginning.
Since the very beginning, yeah. And then we
start
can segue.
At the very beginning.
That's a very good place to start. Yeah.
So... I'm so tired. So the museum, there was a hill about as high as the museum.
Uh-huh.
And Sheldon Johnson realized that his kids did not want to farm.
Uh-huh. So he was an optometrist, right?
He was, and also had a farm. So,
kind of like a hobby farm sort of thing?
Yeah, well, no, alfalfa, mostly.
Oh, okay, okay.
He did have ostriches here for a while as well, and
like
other things. Anyway, so he started selling off pieces of land, like bit by bit. And he was working on the property across the street where the museum is, leveling the hill, and this large piece of sandstone fell out of the back of his truck, landed upside down. And he saw this three-toed dinosaur track and thought there was a dinosaur still in the rock, and his foot was sticking out.
We saw that on the tour, right? It really does look like that. It's amazingly well preserved.
Yeah, really well preserved. And then he of course, his stepson, Kelly Brinkhurst, was a geology professor at Dixie College. Utah Tech now. Anyway, he told Sheldon to keep his eyes open for dinosaur footprints.
Nice.
And so Sheldon started flipping more of these rocks, called Kelly over. And he started finding more. And then he realized, and of course with Kelly kind of telling him, he realized what he was looking at were natural cat tracks.
Yeah.
So that's the initial discovery. Then in April 2000, Sheldon was there, but Martin Lockley and Jim Kirkland from the UGS, they came down, and along with tons of volunteers. It was chaos over there. There was so many people, rocks all over the place. The city finally got the site fenced off. So this is April of 2000. So Sheldon discovered the site late February 2000. I came to the site March 3rd, 2000, along with Wade Miller from BYU and Alden Hamblin, who was the first paleontologist for Grand Staircase Escalante National Monument, also a tracks guy.
Nice.
Anyway, UGS came and we started quarrying across the street and blocks, mapping footprints on the underside.
Yeah.
And then we realized the surface was covered in tracks. And it also led to the discovery of a Ubrani's trackway with a tail drag. And that's exceptionally rare.
Yeah, dinosaurs did not drag their tails frequently,
Very rare.
Yeah.
Anyway, sure enough, that same trackway eventually, when we were preparing the museum site for museum construction, we discovered the sitting trace impressions in the same trackway with the tail drag.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So also back in 2000, these were all badlands here where we're sitting. So no houses.
Yeah.
And just natural hills. There was a little bit of digging done along the side of the road here for landfill for one of the big stores over in Washington. I think it was the Costco. And they moved some rock away, and in that pile I found a big block with these parallel scrape marks, and that turned out to be one of the swim track blocks.
Very cool.
So that was found May 2001, so before I worked here. I also found fish remains. There was bone all over the hills. And we found these big structures that we've now referred to as fish sticks.
Right, yeah.
There's a fish stick over...
Yeah, there is a fish stick.
Yeah, we can show off some of those later, yeah.
Right there. There's one right there.
Nice.
And then, and then we started preparing the site. So there was more excavation for more landfill, and fish fossils kept turning up. And we collected some large fish body parts, which are actually coming from this exact same level.
Nice. But just across the street over there?
In the quarry.
Yeah.
But no, it was on this side of the road.
It was on this side?
Oh, yeah,
okay.
on this side of the road. So
nice.
everything I'm talking about now is on this side.
Yeah.
I should have said that. So anyway, they started scraping stuff off the top of the hill for development and preparing the school. Meanwhile, Darcy Stewart was also ripping away at the rock.
Another landowner over there,
yeah. And he ended up donating all the collections. That was in 2003 into 2004. Oh, it was just chaos. It was just like non-stop fossils coming out of the ground left and right. And then you've got David running around finding everything.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic. Anyway, then we started digging in 2003, and we referred to it as the fish frenzy. It was a month
frenzy
of digging fish. So the aquarium fish beds, which incorporate the fish sticks.
Okay.
And also these upper beds, so these units here, over towards the school.
Yeah.
And that's when we started discovering dinosaur remains and complete fish.
Yeah.
And other interesting bones coming out of the upper layers.
And so at this point, it's becoming clear that this is a really, really special site. Like, this is something extraordinary.
There's a lot of body fossils and vertebrates in the upper stuff.
It's not just tracks, it's body fossils too.
So, and tracks mixed in too. So, and then in 2005, Dwayne Freeman found the first dinosaur vertebra. We had about 20 to 30 teeth collected before we excavated this site. So yeah, that's kind of how it all went. And
Yeah.
of course, with the substation going up, we knew that they were building a substation. Christmas 2024, they were talking about building it somewhere else. And January 4th, I think it was January 4th or January 2nd. It was January 2nd.
Yeah,
they
day after
came
New
to
Year's.
meet with Hunter and Diana, our director,
Oh yeah, and we
to
went
start
there.
talking about building the substation. They couldn't find a new location for it.
They couldn't find anywhere else in this whole town
No.
to build that. It has to be on top of one of the most important fossil sites in North America, potentially.
Anyway.
I'll say it.
But the positive thing is, if they hadn't have built the substation here, we would not. This would have all become just a park.
Pickleball courts.
And pickleball courts. Yeah. So.
Is that true? I didn't hear
They were
pickleball. Wow.
talking about pickleball courts here.
Huh. Okay.
And bike trails and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of bikes. Are they talking? Hopefully
Like
not
mountain bikes.
Mountain bikes, not off-road bikes.
Yeah, I think maybe
Well-
like mountain bikes.
And at least with a pickleball court, like, they could have just torn it up in 10 years when nobody plays pickleball anymore, you know? And that fad is over.
Yeah, and we can keep digging.
Yeah.
Actually, I have the plat maps for the school still, and I've got a red line drawn where we stopped excavating all the dinosaur swim tracks.
Oh, okay.
So in case they knock the school down, we can keep digging. So.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're very fortunate to be digging this site. We're now, I'd say, over 750
Oh, yeah.
specimens.
750 specimens plus.
Easily.
Yeah, easily.
Wow. Yeah.
We're going to break 1,000 in this quarry.
Yeah. All right. We got
The
about
next
2 weeks
2
left,
weeks.
right? Yeah.
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 And
Nice. Well, thanks for telling us the story, Andrew. Yeah,
You're welcome.
appreciate it. Yeah.
My pleasure.
Wow, so many times before.
So there you have it, chat. We were talking about this back when we were touring the museum a few weeks ago, but it's nice to be able to get a refresher, especially right here on the site, you know? Yeah, man, and you can tell how exhausted Andrew is as well. He's just been working here nonstop for like almost 2 months now. And it's not just a lot of work, it's a lot of stress too. Yeah. And now I'm not the only one camping on site. Andrew is too, so it's just 24/7 fossil site. That's a lot. It's a lot. So yeah. He is a champion, Claire, absolutely. Brown Balloon's his first time here. Really cool stream. Never knew about such an underrated field being broadcasted. Brown Balloon, thank you. Yeah. Now, this is almost like an hors d'oeuvre, an appetizer, before we start doing some fieldwork streams for the rest of the summer. I'm going to be out in Wyoming for a whole month, digging up dinosaurs and other critters out there. And we're going to be streaming as close to 7 days a week as possible for the interim, and then or for that whole time. And then from mid-July to mid-August, I'm going to be out near Moab, Utah, digging up some more new species of dinosaur. Dinosaur left and right this summer. Very excited about that, and I'll be bringing you. Yeah, it's nice to, you know, just kind of wade in a little bit in the springtime before it's just all fossils all. Well, it's always all fossils all the time, but all fieldwork all the time. And if anybody's just tuning in, if it's your first time here, like you, Brown Balloon, welcome to Paleontologizing. My name is Danny Anduza. I'm a dinosaur paleontologist, and I'm here on Twitch trying to do some good old-fashioned science outreach. So as a paleontologist, I work on fossils. I'm kind of a dinosaur specialist, though. Most paleontologists don't work on dinosaurs. I don't want anybody to think that paleontology and dinosaurs are synonymous. Paleontology is so much more than just dinosaurs. It's the study of the history of life on Earth, fossil record. It's everything from fossil bacteria to fossil whales, from fossil redwood trees to fossil crabs and snails. Any organisms that lived on our Earth and left record of their existence in the rocks That is the purview of the paleontologist. Dinosaurs are just the tip of the iceberg. But I happen to study that tip of that iceberg. The dinosaurs are what I work on, what I dig up, what I publish on in the scientific literature, all that. But I don't want to be a chauvinist, you know. I don't want you to come away from these streams thinking that paleontology is just dinosaurs, because it's certainly not. Anywho, yeah, when I'm not out in the field, I'm streaming from my office back home in the San Francisco Bay Area, going over new scientific papers, doing a ton of questions and answers with chat, interviewing other paleontologists, sometimes doing artwork on stream, or, you know, covering various bits of news, dissecting bits of, you know, paleontology and pop culture, all kinds of stuff like that. So the whole point is to give people an opportunity to take an inside peek into how fossil science works, what it's all about, and what we as paleontologists do. So right now I'm here at this emergency fossil site in St. George, Utah. It's an emergency fossil site because this is all slated to be destroyed right here in maybe as few as a few weeks from now, you know? The city of St. George has decided they want to build a power station here on top of an extraordinarily important fossil site. So it's all hands on deck trying to excavate whatever we can, trying to understand this ancient environment and all the different creatures that lived in it from a super important time in Earth history. I'll tell you why it's super important. Hackstock says if it wasn't for the dinosaurs, we wouldn't be here, right? We as Twitch streamer and viewers, if it weren't for dinosaurs, I wouldn't be here in St. George, that's for sure. Oh, this isn't the right one. What am I trying to show you? Yeah, let's look at geological. This is one of these concepts that I always try and get across in my streams, especially when there's new viewers around. In fact, I was talking with a 7th grade teacher here yesterday about this, who does a lot of natural history stuff. I think one of the biggest misperceptions that folks have about Earth history is that, well, there's our modern day, and then there's the prehistoric time. Sorry for using the stuffy nose voice, but the prehistoric time when the prehistoric things lived. That's 99.9% of Earth history is the prehistoric time. You know, when you go to the dollar store or whatever, and you see those bags of like assorted plastic dinosaurs, and you've got Tyrannosaurus right next to Stegosaurus, Metrodon in there too. I think a lot of folks just kind of, you know, those are all creatures lived a long time ago, and they're, you know, those are the prehistoric animals. They all lived together in the prehistoric time. That's not how it works. There's been life on our planet Earth for over 3 billion years, and it's a really, really, it's like this, I'm trying to come up with an analogy here that makes any at all, like this grand pageant with a constantly changing cast of characters. You have these, I'm totally mixing my metaphors here, you can tell how tired I am too, but these like grand dynasties of living things, these lineages that rise and fall. You get throughout Earth history, from, you know, Earth's formation about 4.54 billion years ago up until the present. Things are constantly changing. In different layers of rock that represent these different times, you see these changes in the flora and the fauna. You see plants and animals evolve and change. You see, you know, these interesting trends that develop and then they disappear. Things are always changing. It's kind of a cliche at this point, but a lot of people really like this little factoid that there's more time in between T-Rex and Stegosaurus than there is between T-Rex and us. So Tyrannosaurus and Stegosaurus are further apart in time than we are from Tyrannosaurus. the age of the dinosaurs is really long. From the Triassic through the end of the Cretaceous, that's the age of the dinosaurs right there. The rocks that we're looking at right now are from after this interval, just after this transition between the Triassic and Jurassic. So we're looking at rocks that are about 200 million years old right here, at the very, very beginning of the Jurassic. And this is a really special time, because this is when dinosaurs are starting to take over the Earth. We just had a major mass extinction about 201 million years ago, something like that, between the Triassic and Jurassic period. Just a major biotic crisis. You've got all of these, not just species, families and whole orders of organisms just completely wiped out. Probably by like runaway global warming because of massive volcanic eruptions at the time. Understanding this sort of thing is really important because, well, shoot, like I said, things in Earth history are always changing, conditions are always changing, creatures are trying to adapt. You know, the only constant is change. We're seeing similar stuff today as well. We're on a rapidly changing planet right now, in the present. Temperatures are rising. It seems like every year that we go through is the warmest year on record. We're going through some serious global warming right now, like what's happening at the end of the Triassic period going into the Jurassic. So being able to understand which creatures went extinct during that time and which survived, that can give us some clues as to how to prevent this from happening to species today, you know? It gives us perspective that we wouldn't otherwise have, you know? We don't have to go into the future blind. We can see what's happened in the ancient past of our own planet, and we can plan for the future that way. That's why this sort of work is so important. That's one of the reasons why this particular site is so important. Because it helps record very similar events to what's happening today, you know? So yeah. Anywho. How deep will you be digging, and are there electronic devices to help locate possible fossils? Miku, great questions. We're going to be digging... It's not necessarily a question of how deep, but like lateral extent. Here, I'll show you. And there are no electronic devices. I'll show you why. Yeah. Sometimes archaeologists, people who study the artifacts from human culture and human civilization. Archaeologists are people who study, ancient Rome, ancient Egypt, all these other civilizations like this. They study the cultures that people have had in the past and all kinds of different landscapes. That's not what we do as paleontologists. We study fossils. Our stuff is so much older than fossils are the preserved remains of ancient living things. Their bodies, their scales and teeth and everything else like we're finding here, but also their trackways, footprints, swim tracks, all kinds of stuff like we're finding here. These things are rock. They've been fossilized, they've been permineralized, and so they generally tend to be the same kind of consistency and density as the surrounding rock. And so the tools that archaeologists use for trying to find, ancient city walls and shards of pottery and things like that, man-made objects, not in the same way at least. And they're not buried in rock, they're buried in soil. Super recent. We're digging in solid rock down here. And the fossils themselves are essentially like turned to stone. There are other rocks. I'll show you. So using those same tools that archaeologists use wouldn't work in this case because, it's like trying to find a rock in another pile of rocks. It's not like trying to find a pottery shard in some topsoil. Anyhow. And Zakup, welcome to Paleontologizing. Good to have you here. A needle and a needle stack. There you go, Ziaduk. Yeah. Here, we'll go check on... XVR over here and look at our fossil fish. Just got a question about how, like, why don't you use any sort of electronic device for finding fossils like this? And you've done this firsthand now, so you can tell it would.
Yeah, that would be. It depends on how strong the vibrations would be too, because you could easily break.
Oh yeah, so this stuff is incredibly delicate.
Yeah.
And we'll take a look at.
Sure. So I got the top part over here.
Yeah, yeah.
We have that pulled out so that we can keep that. Mm-hmm. And they're gonna have to identify, because I asked, and I was like, oh, that looks like a mouth. That looks like a fin. Mm-hmm. But we don't know because this is obviously just the concretion.
Yeah.
So the rest of it is under here. We got some glue on it, but because they're about to plaster that,
you gotta get that
we're
up,
covering that up so that if it splatters, we don't get any on the fossil.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I did from the area while I was digging around to make sure it didn't in any direction. I did get another. You could see the shine off of the outside surface.
Yeah, yeah. And so this kind of illustrates our point here, is that this stuff is incredibly thin. So that fossil fish it's almost just like a stain on the surface with some bones in there. It's not substantial. It's not the sort of thing that you'd pick up with ground penetrating radar or something like that. It's far more subtle. It's something that requires just to be able to identify in the first place. Yeah.
And especially this much thin. Thin. It comes off in layers like this. So if you have anything that puts any kind of pressure or vibrations to detect something, there's always a chance that could.
Yeah.
I'm.
Crush it with your hand right there. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Awesome.
So,
yeah. Thanks.
Sure.
Cool. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. Apologize, I'm not particularly eloquent today. Feel the effects of being out here for, almost feels like a week at this point. It's not quite that long. But yeah. Might need a fossil divining rod. There you go, friendly, creative seal. No need for training your eyes and your brain to be able to recognize these things. I feel like especially on Twitch, everybody wants there to be a technological solution to every problem. It's like, just get ground penetrating radar or some sort of advanced LiDAR system or something like that. It's like, wouldn't work. Even if it did, we wouldn't be able to afford it. But it doesn't work. Yeah. But yeah, the Terminator Pig says mudstone? Yeah, mudstone. So, let me say that is, a little bit of organic something right there. But mudstone is exactly what it sounds like. It's stone that's made from ancient mud. This is again from the bottom of a lake 200 million years ago. And you get layers of sediment that are brought in by rivers and stuff into the lake, and then that, if you're lucky, will bury the remains of things like fishes or even dinosaurs. That sediment will cover up those organic remains, and then once the stuff is buried, it can start to permineralize. You get minerals that seep into the hard parts, like the bones and the teeth and the scales, and they can slowly turn to stone themselves. Yeah. So yeah, we've got mudstone here. Some of the mudstone is particularly muddy or silty or sandy, and that can tell us about what's going on in that ecosystem at that time. Why do you get these kinds of sediments where they are? It all tells a story, trying to piece together bit by bit what this ancient environment was like and what are the changes that are happening during deposition. Is this lake expanding? Is it contracting? Is it drying up? The rocks tell us that story, if only we know how to interpret them correctly, Yeah. Mizart Rule says, must be video games that make you think tech can help find fossils. I think that might be part of it. We are on Twitch, after all. Yeah. And Geo Jim, how are you doing? Hello. Did you raid in? Welcome, Geo Jim. It's great to have you here. Holy cow. And I don't know if anybody's done a core sample. We were talking about that. So there are some folks at a local university who are talking about potentially bringing in a big core drilling device in order to. So what that is, it's basically like a big. Picture a giant metal toilet paper tube. And it goes into the ground, and then it comes up, and then you just have this nice core sample like that, and you can look at all of the layers inside. I'm grossly oversimplifying here, but hopefully it's getting the idea across. If we had some core samples like that, we would be able to tell how thick each of these layers are, and that could give us a lot of information about the stratigraphy, layers of the rocks, what's going on in this ecosystem, in this basin, as all this sediment is different layers. How long do they last? Which ones do we find fossils in? All of that information is incredibly important. Yeah. Like a paper drill for notebook paper. There you go, Jody Fish, yeah. Yeah. I think it goes dirter into the ground. There you go, Claire, yeah. Hogan says, I have some core samples. A friend of mine is a geologist on the East Coast, and he drills for a living. Yeah, it's cool stuff. And it's not just useful for sedimentary rock. It's also useful for, for ice. You can take ice core samples, and you can take samples of the air and those little air bubbles within the ice, and that tells you what the composition of the atmosphere was like in the past at different points in time. You can use it for mud at the bottom of a lake, trying to figure out what's going on, in the lake bottom at different times. All kinds of stuff like that. There's a big facility up in Salt Lake City. This is where Jim Kirkland works, the Utah Geological Survey. The big, core lab. There's basically a huge warehouse full of all of these core samples that have been taken across Utah. And they're all archived there, so if anybody wants to come study them for whatever reason, that's where they're held. Because there's a wealth of information in a core sample like that. If we can get that from here, I could help answer a lot of questions, potentially. As long as the right people are studying it. Yeah. Anywho. And Doki Doki Baka had a question. Let me see if I can find that. Let's see. How many different types of scientists or specialties would be interested in sites like this one? Oh, shoot. So many. So, like we were talking about earlier, Jeff Martz was talking about paleobotany. People like Sid Ash, paleobotanists studying plants from this time. They'd be super interested in this. The people who are studying dinosaurs like me. What kinds of dinosaurs do we have here? They haven't been named. We don't have anything close to a complete skeleton of any of the dinosaurs that were living here. Just tantalizing bits and pieces, just little hints. One of the reasons I'm super interested in this. People who study ancient fishes, or ancient worms, or clams, or shrimps. The people who study ancient climates. The people who study the peculiarities of the geology. Sedimentologists, people who are looking at the stratigraphy. The scientists who study ancient pollen from plants would be interested in this too. People who are really interested in fossil footprints, how different animals move, the traces that they leave. This site is it's phenomenal for anybody like that. Anybody who works on any of those things, they're like a kid in a candy store here, It's a really special place. And that's not an exhaustive list. There are lots of other scientists, people with different specialties, who'd be really interested in this too. And Fossilicious Girl, what a great name. Hi Danny, it's Melissa here. I'm sad I couldn't make it today. The live stream is awesome. Thank you, Melissa. I appreciate that. Thank you for all of your work here and your generosity. It was great getting to know you, and I'm glad you can see part of this today, even if you can't be here in person. It's been a weird day. We got a lot of rain last night, and this is still feeling kind of mucky in here. So we got a late start today, but things are going well. People are watching. I'm really trying to focus on answering questions today, and we have had a few new fish come out too. Starting to find some new fish, so that's exciting also. Yeah. But yeah, excellent. Here, and did somebody just gift Fossilicious Girl a subscription? Thank you for that. She won't have to watch any ads here. for the next month. That's phenomenal. Yeah. 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 Hi, new fish here. Hey, JL Draco, welcome. Yeah. Thank you, Hogan, for that gift sub. Appreciate your generosity, Hogan. Let's go take another look around and see what else we've got. Anything interesting, Jeff?
Well, there's a while ago.
Oh, yeah?
So we've been finding in these layers, there's oftentimes these like dark colored stains we find. And most of them are probably like, there's one right there. So most of these are probably just like some sort of mineral growth, like manganese or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I popped one up that it was such a regular shape. It was like, it almost had like a segmented shape to it. And it looked like either a teeny tiny little, maybe badly preserved plant frond, like a fern, or even it might possibly have been like a little invertebrate fossil.
Interesting.
Which I think is a long shot, but it's an interesting possibility because it suggests that like a lot of these little dark things that we've been kind of overlooking might actually
we just
might
toss
be
those to
something.
the side usually. Yeah.
Most of them probably still are. Like I've been checking them out, and most of them look pretty random. Or they'll kind of have that little frost snowflake appearance, like
almost like a dendritic sort of shape to them.
Yeah.
Like these, yeah.
But I'm keeping an eye out now because that was a pretty interesting one. It didn't look right to just be a mineral growth. So that might actually be some kind of little soft body fossil of some kind.
Interesting.
Yes.
Cool. Again, it goes to show that like attention to detail it's really important.
Yeah, we're really eager to find big cool fish, but
just as important sometimes.
Yeah, especially since those are incredibly. If that really is an invertebrate fossil, that's incredibly rare.
And it's neat. Like a lot of invertebrates, particularly insects, like their oldest record might be a trace. Like the I don't know, like bite marks on leaves and things like that from ancient insects. Their entire like massive groups of insects with thousands of species today, and their earliest fossil record. Here's a particular, like chew mark on a leaf from the. That's the only reason we know that those critters were around back then is that somebody noticed the particular like pattern of bite marks on a leaf that matches the same patterns that those same groups of insects leave today.
Or sometimes you can have like DNA studies of invertebrates that suggest that a group appeared further. Like for example, if you look at arachnids, like back in the Jurassic, we know we have various types like megalomorphs, the early relatives of tarantulas, and we've got like orb weaver spiders, and we probably have trapdoor spiders. But the thing is, the oldest known trapdoor spider is Paleozoic. There's no Triassic trapdoor spiders, and then they don't show up till later. So there's a whole span of millions of years.
Like ghost lineage almost, yeah.
But they were spiders, of course, were probably fantastically abundant, just like they are today.
They just don't fossilize very well.
Yeah, and then when you look at like DNA studies that they use to kind of estimate divergence times, those suggest that all those other weird arachnids, things like sulfugids and whip scorpions and maroons, probably were around back then. Them at all,
right?
And so and then like trackways. So like there's some very large trackways known from the late Paleozoic in the Southwest. It look like they might have been made by like tarantula-sized spiders. No body fossils at all, and no trace of them in the Triassic stuff. And then you get to the Jurassic, and there's other additional tracks again made by tarantula-sized spiders, possibly, or scorpions. No body fossils. So a lot of times trace fossils can kind of give you a peek as to what diversity at the time might have been like that you can't get any other way.
Right. Nice. Again, another reason why it's so important to study sites like this really carefully and just take whatever data we can get. Awesome. Thanks, Jeff.
Yep.
Yeah. Nice. Oh, what do we got here, Asher? Oh, nice. Looks like more Zamites here. Very cool. So yeah. You want to take a look?
Yeah. Where'd that come from?
There's a big pile over there that's left over from the Southern Parkway.
That's really cool.
Also, would you want to? I found.
Can I take another look at that? Actually,
yeah.
I love cycads. They're my favorites.
I found a big one that's like that.
Oh yeah.
But it's in like this massive block. Would you want to come take a look at that really quick?
I can't because I got to stay close to the Wi-Fi router or else I'll lose signal. But this is awesome. Thank you for bringing it over, Asher.
Yeah.
Really neat.
I might have.
But cool stuff.
That one.
Yeah, so any other fans of cycads in the chat? They're some of my favorite extant plants, and they were so much more abundant during the Mesozoic. I realize it's kind of basic to be like, oh, I love cycads. They're the dinosaur plant, but they're just so charismatic. I like them a lot. So those of you who are not familiar in the chat, cycads are a group of plants. They show up in what, like the Permian or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometime.
Yeah.
I think Zemites might be a Bennettitalian, actually.
Oh, okay.
So
not a true cycad, yeah.
So probably closer related to cycads, but it's an extinct group.
Gotcha. Yeah.
That's not it, but that's another one.
Ooh.
See if I can run bark and stuff first.
Yeah.
It's all the way up.
Nice. Yeah. Look at that. Beautiful.
I don't know how it's going to show up.
Really cool. No, I'm sure it's showing up, yeah.
Let's hope.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, very cool. So it's a group of plants. I think their closest living relative is ginkgos.
That I can't remember.
Yeah.
I thought for a while these were thought to be actually close to cycads, but that's probably outdated.
Oh no, cycads are closest to ginkgos.
Oh, are they?
I think so.
That I did not know.
It might be like one of those things where they're so basal that they're equally closely related to them, or both, or whatever. But yeah, but they're weird. Cycads, they look a lot like ferns, and they've got that same kind of pattern.
I thought that's what they were.
Yeah, right. First. Yeah, because they've got the like the central stalk with all the little leaflets coming off like that.
Yeah.
But
yeah. I have a couple more in my bag. The Angela.
Nice.
You want me to go grab those?
If you want to, sure. Yeah. So yeah, cycads have got often like a central trunk. We call it the caudex in the middle, and then you get those big fronds, but that's probably not the technical term, coming off of them, and they're cone-bearing. So cycads today, like they were in the Mesozoic, are dioecious. There's either male or female plants, and they have different kinds of cones, and you need to actually have material transferred from, one sex to the other in order to create like viable seeds, I think, and have new cycads. Yeah, most of them today, I think, are pollinated by beetles, and that's probably how it was back in the Mesozoic too, but they're such cool plants. Today there are, I want to say there's about, and some of them are critically endangered. We only have one species of cycad that's native to the United States today. That is it Zamia integrifolia? It's called the Kunti cycad. Sometimes called the Kunti palm, but they're palms. They're nowhere close to palms. I mean, you can find them in Florida today. They're mostly like tropical plants in general nowadays, cycads. You find them in Central and South America. You'll find them in some of the warmer parts of Australia. And and I guess you get them up into Asia as well. There's one particular species that's extremely common in cultivation. You see them in all kinds of landscaping and gardens and stuff. Cycas revoluta. If anybody looks up a picture of that, you'll see it and you go, oh yeah, I've seen those around. My neighbors have those planted in their front yard, or I've seen them in a city park or something like that. Those are from Japan. And as a result, of having evolved to survive in that environment, it can get kind of cold up there. They can tolerate lower temperatures than other species of cycad can. They're very hardy plants, and they do really well in cultivation. Yeah, not sago palm. There you go, Dr. Hubbs. Yeah. So the sago palm is not a palm at all. Cycas revoluta, the one I'm talking about, is a cycad. Yeah, I've got some of them at home. They are really cool. All right. Oh, and Andrew's breaking out the rock saw again. Let's go take a look. So what he's doing there is making some extra deep cuts because that's such a wide block that you really need to cut a little bit deeper in order to be able to flip it comfortably. With some of the other blocks that are narrower from side to side, it's much easier to flip them. That one's so wide that you've got to make extra deep cuts. Headphone users, sorry, Ms. Earls. Here, let's walk where it's a little bit quieter, but yeah, very nice.
Yeah,
Look at that.
I had to look for all the pieces, but...
Beautiful. That's awesome.
Why do they... Same formation, I understand the different formations, but same formation, why can they be different colors
Different colors? It's got to be just like... Well, I don't know. It's a good question.
I'm sure just like...
I mean, it might make more sense when you consider that, like, different fronds on the same plant might be different colors. One of them might be, like, fresh and green and new. Other ones are more brown and older. Maybe it's something to do with that. I don't know. Yeah. But cool stuff.
Yeah.
Really beautiful find.
Yeah. If we can get that big one that's over here, then...
Yeah. Well, leave that where it is for now, because we don't want to, I don't know, move it around too much. Not for the sake of the stream. Safety of the fossil is always paramount, you know? Yeah. Thanks for showing us. Appreciate it. Let me go get some water. Yeah. And is that the large fish from late yesterday? It is Helvetica scenario. It is the enormous fish. Yeah. So that's it's requiring some extra rock sawing there. All right, let's see how our battery is doing over here. Hopefully we've got nice and sunny. Not too bad. Yeah. Could be a lot worse. Let me drink some water. It has been not feeling the need to drink water every 5 minutes like I have been for the past few streams. Nice. Yeah. Downright cold today, says Claire, yeah. I've still got shorts on. But man, this morning it was like, maybe 40 degrees, 45, something like that. That was reluctant long pants weather. Glad I got to change into my shorts later. And Hammock 1, hello to you too. Welcome to Paleontologizing. It's good to have you here. For anybody just joining us, like Hammock, and the other 441 people watching, holy cow. Welcome. My name is Danny Anduza. I'm a dinosaur paleontologist. A paleontologist is a scientist who studies fossils. I'm one of those rare paleontologists who study dinosaurs. Most paleontologists don't. But we've got dinosaurs at this site and a whole bunch of other critters. Because of all that dust over there is a weird fossil fish that museum curator Andrew Milner is trying to cut out of the ground with that rock saw. So this fish and the dinosaurs here lived around or in an enormous lake 200 million years ago. Big inland lake that today we call Lake Whitmore. This is a huge lake about the size of Lake Erie, straddling at least 2 states today. There were no states back then, obviously, but enormous lake. Big freshwater lake. Different critters that lived in and around it. And we're finding their remains. We're finding their bones, their teeth, their scales. And we're finding their traces. We're finding footprints and scrape marks, swim tracks like we were talking about. Somebody earlier was asking, what's a swim track? That's when these animals, things like dinosaurs, would go from the shore into the water their footprints on dry land turn into like kick marks on the muddy bottom of the lake. And so if they're in shallow water, like they were along the margins of this lake, then their toes are kind of barely scraping the bottom, and they're leaving these scrape marks that we call swim tracks or swim traces. It's really cool. These guys, they were very lightweight, full of air, just like modern birds are. And so they'd float pretty easily. So it wouldn't take a whole lot of water depth in order to get them to float. And then their tracks change from, you know, stepping track to swimming tracks. Pretty cool. Yeah. And did these fish and dinosaurs live at the same time? They did, Friendly Creative Seal. They did. And we have direct evidence of dinosaurs eating those fishes, which is pretty cool. If you go to the museum there, they've got some lovely displays where you can see some of these dinosaur teeth that were shed. Just like a lot of animals that have teeth. Dinosaurs shed their teeth all the time, always growing new ones. A lot of people know that sharks do that. Lots of animals do that. We as mammals don't. We're kind of the odd ones out. But shedding their teeth all the time, and it's a good thing too, because some of these guys, they're really biting into these fishes. There are these big, like, wear facets on the teeth, because these guys, like our coelophysoids here, or our bigger theropods, when they're getting these fishes, they're punching their teeth through those bony scales. These semi-anodid fishes, in particular, were armored, kind of like how gar are today, alligator gar and their relatives. Other gar have got these ganoid scales. So these scales that are literally made of bone, and then they have like an enamel coating on them. That'd be really hard on your teeth. These dinosaurs had pretty robust teeth, but still, you know, time after time punching through those bony scales, the teeth would get worn down, and we see that in the fossil teeth. Facets on them. It's super cool. So we know that the dinosaurs were eating these fishes to the shores of this lake. That's what's got them swimming around in it too. So they're out there trying to get lunch. Good stuff. Oh, how are you? Paleontologizing. Dynamite indeed. Let's go take a look over there at Andrew's handiwork. Let's see those cuts that he made on our fish. We'll walk right past our plant site here. Should have tarped this over. But yeah. Let's see. All right, nice. Love to see a fish jaw. Cool, thanks, Pearl.
Yeah.
Oh man, look at that. Very, very nice.
No, digging out.
Super cool.
Yeah.
Good find.
Mm-hmm.
Really neat.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it's probably from a semi-anodid just by the numbers. They're the most common thing here, but...
Especially right next to where that other one was found.
Oh?
Yeah.
There. Let's take a look at your handiwork over here before you get going again. Right there. Nice. Good stuff. This is a serious piece of equipment here. Holy moly. How you feeling, Andrew?
More than one species.
Gonna do this one next? And that one, all right. Just a rock saw marathon here.
Okay, I'm going for it.
Yeah, all right. And you're looking like Immortan Joe with the the respirator on. dust. Very cool. Now you may have noticed that this pile of dirt looks much different than it did earlier. The folks using the excavators to help us out have been moving this. It'd be lovely to be able to actually have a clean line of sight from the museum out here to the site. Especially when nobody's going to be camping here at night. We want to deter vandals as much as we can, because there have been a few people who have snuck in after hours to try and steal fossils. And, yeah, some of them have been caught, thankfully. But, yeah, having a way that you can actually see from the museum direct to the site would be a good thing. So having this big pile of dirt out of the way is going to be good. Yeah. And yes, indeed, St. George, Utah, Jim. And Thrill House. Hire street toughs to protect the merchandise, says 32-bit cat ears. There you go, yeah. I love that phrase, street toughs. It's very vintage in a charming kind of way. Claire Burr, are you familiar with where that name comes from? That's a Simpsons reference. And have any specimens gone missing that they know of? Not missing, but at least damaged? Yeah, for sure. People come in looking for a souvenir and they end up partially destroying a really important fossil that happened to a coelacanth a little while ago. So there are police patrols that come through here at night. Yeah. So don't get any funny ideas, anybody watching. Yeah. And hired goons. There you go, Claire. I did joke about it, like, yeah, let's go out and get a really mean dog. Chain it up out here at night. I was kidding. Dogs belong inside if you can help it. Yeah. Anyhow. But yeah. We need geese. There you go. Clapper, yeah. Yeah. A cassowary or two. I don't know if a cassowary would enjoy being here. You know, they tend to like tree cover. I don't think they like being out here in the middle of the desert. But, yeah. Anyhow. You also educate me in the great American masterpiece, The Simpsons. There you go, Claire. An essential piece of American culture. Yeah. Certainly worthy of study. Ostriches, then, says Terminator Pig. I mean, I wouldn't mind having some ostriches on site, but then you'd have to enclose, you'd have to have a fence around. Yeah. I don't know. I like the creativity, though. Thank you, Volcano. It rained out at the beginning. It rained a lot. Should go shelter in the museum for a little while. But, yeah, we've been waiting for... And now we're back at it. Finding out today are in the process of being extracted. So Andrew's digging some trenches around them with the gas-powered rock saw. Anyway, yes, and please do follow Volcano Doc, everybody. If you're not yet following Twitch's resident volcanologist. Actually, Volcano Doc, this is right up your alley. We're we were talking about you yesterday a little bit. We had some questions, and chatters were going, Volcano Doc would probably know the answer to that. These rocks that we're digging in are from the beginning of the Jurassic period. So just after the Triassic-Jurassic extinction event. And anytime there's like a big mass extinction on our planet Earth, the question is always, what caused more than species on our planet to die out? In this case, it seems it was probably Vulcan. Had the, what's it called? Camp. The Central something magmatic province. There's just massive volcanism going on during the breakup of Pangaea. So you would have had just tons of magma being spilled out, massive volcanic eruptions, and then lots and lots of greenhouse gases being released into the atmosphere. I say as this dust drifts toward me. Let's walk in the other direction. So all of this carbon dioxide, probably sulfur dioxide, lots and lots of greenhouse gases being emitted by these volcanic eruptions. And that changed Earth's climate. You would have had You may have actually had global cooling just prior to that, from the sun being blocked out. So temperatures dropped, and then they shot way up. Just couldn't adapt. It was just too extreme. Like, it would have been really, really awful. And that may have been what caused the Triassic-Jurassic extinction event and paved the way for dinosaurs to take over the Earth. Because dinosaurs were around prior to this extinction event, but, you know, they were just bit players in the ecosystems. They weren't the biggest thing around yet. They weren't dominant. After this, after a bunch of their competitors get wiped out, dinosaurs really take over. So it goes to show understanding volcanic eruptions and what they can do to our climate is really important. It's also really important for, I don't know, what's going on today. We're not having massive volcanic eruptions. It seems like, I don't know, industry, fossil fuel industry in particular, is trying to basically speed run this on our planet. Let's kick up all of this greenhouse gas into the atmosphere, and you know, let's skyrocket Earth temperatures, you know, and profit. And it's not good. I shouldn't be making light of this. It's really, really not good. But yeah, let's see how this goes, says baseball. Yeah, let's turn Earth into Venus. There you go. Yeah. Anyhow, the flood basalts will do that if they go on for long enough. And is that the Whiteside paper? I'm not sure, Jody Fish. Excuse me, Volcano Doc. Thank you, Jody Fish, for reposting. I'm not sure where I got this from. I think this is a Ron Blakey map. Paleo Jim here can confirm or deny. But I think this is one of Ron Blakey's paleo maps. And then this up here is kind of like a little inset showing that. Again? Let me look it up. Something magmatic province. Camp magmatic Central Atlantic magmatic province. There you go. Bingo. Yeah. So in that area, as these continents are breaking apart, you get these rifts that form, and then you can get magma that comes and spills out along with all of these greenhouse gases, and it changed the climate pretty dramatically during that time. Too quickly for species to be able to adapt. So many different things died out. Yeah. Earth's largest continental large igneous province, covering an area of roughly 11 million kilometers squared. Composed mainly of basalt that formed before Pangaea broke up in the Mesozoic era, near the end of the Triassic and the beginning of the Jurassic. Good stuff. Marzoli et al. 1999. I guess that name was proposed. Cool. Yeah. And a really, really good paleoecology paper from 2007. Cool, Volcano Doc. Shoot, if you've got the wherewithal, I'm sure people would love a link. Maybe somebody else can pull it up. Yeah. And point of note, the gas types and concentrations depend on the volcano, so not every flood basalt is the same. Interesting, volcano doc. The other day was actually why I was kind of late getting here to St. George. I got to go to a really cool talk in Berkeley. Who studies forams. He's like a micro paleontologist. He's not micro. He's way taller than me. But he studies these ancient foraminifera, tiny, like basically fossil plankton. Everybody. But yeah, he was giving a talk about the end Cretaceous extinction event, and the asteroid impact, and this really interesting, very controversial site in North Dakota. It's not the point. The point is that I got to talk with him afterward, and Walter Alvarez was there too. So I got to hang out with them for a little bit and ask them some questions and just kind of talk about what was going on at the end of the Cretaceous, and I was able to share some stuff that I had learned from my my field work and my various journeys throughout there. Yeah, there's me and Jan Smit, and then here's me and Walter Alvarez. Now, Walter Alvarez is kind of a geology and earth history superstar. His father was Louis Alvarez, and they were a father and son team that basically they helped convince the world that it was an asteroid event at the end of the Cretaceous. It was really cool being able to talk to him. He's like, long time Berkeley guy. The Alvarez paper, what was it? Alvarez 1980. Incredibly important paper. And it changed the way that we think about Earth history in a lot of ways. Catastrophism is not a dirty word in geology anymore, partly due to their work. But anyway, they co-authored the paper, Volcano Dog. It's like, yeah. So, I got to talk with them for a while, and we got to talking about impacts and volcanism and how there's a growing body of evidence that these two things might be related. Because we get these massive, bowl history, and it seems like more outside with massive volcanic eruptions. And so he was talking about how there are some researchers who are becoming convinced that may have actually triggered some of the massive volcanism from the Deccan Traps. They're still trying to figure out some of the dates, which one actually came first, that kind of thing. But, it's interesting stuff. Really cool. I remember a Nova episode about them when I was there. You go, Terminator Pig. Yeah, that's why I was really keen to get photos with Jan Smet and with Walter Alvarez, because oftentimes we'll watch old documentaries that show both of these guys at work on like the KPG extinction. They both extinction, because that's what it's always been up until recently. Very cool. And I saw you got to meet John Ostrom's nephew. Yes, indeed. He's still here, Claire. Let's go talk to Mark. I think I saw him earlier. I think he's still here. And we've got Jim in the chat too, right? I think maybe Jim was here last time as well. We'll see. But let's go see if Mark is still here. I think he is.
I wonder what that line is, though. That's a pretty...
That's good.
More on the comedy.
All right, I'm taking a quick detour here. Yeah.
So, I know in the chat, Claire Burr always uses these frog emoji. I think I found one.
Frog.
Oh, those are iOS. It just came up like that.
Very nice. That's really cool. Thanks for sharing.
Sure.
Appreciate it. I like that. Yeah. Yeah, I helped Ios make the original Mad Frog. That's the frog detective with the angry eyebrows. Yeah. Nice stuff. Nice stuff. Let's see. And Mark is still here. Excellent. Hey, yeah, Claire Burr wanted to meet you.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, this is Mark, and he is the nephew of famed American paleontologist John Ostrom, discoverer and describer of Deinonychus, and in many ways one of the, maybe like the father of modern. So yeah, your uncle would be proud of you.
Yeah.
Find anything good here recently?
Not here. I did find some fish up when I was digging in the piles or rummaging through the piles earlier when before this was opened back up.
Right.
I need to get into this lower fish bed area.
Yeah.
I did find some things right here. It's all covered up now, but I think there might be some fish skulls right here.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Right here or something. But,
oh, that's intriguing. Yeah. Huh.
Yeah, I mean right here too. I had this all like brushed off, but with the what was happening over there.
All the dust and everything. Yeah.
So,
it's good to evacuate the area when the silicate dust is blown around. Yeah.
So, I don't know if I was going to show you this earlier. I have a Deinonychus replica at my house.
Oh, that's amazing!
A life-size Deinonychus replica.
That is so cool.
So yeah, I bought that. I don't know if they make them anymore, but Triassica.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of them. Yeah.
Yeah. So so I bought that for $1,800. But there was no instructions on how to put it together. So I had to figure it all out on my own how to do that.
Did you look at your uncle's monograph on Deinonychus, the osteology of Deinonychus anteropus?
Definitely, and some of those. That talks about the Harvard specimen there, and I've been to that Harvard up to my shoulder, so it's about 4 feet 9. That's a good sized Deinonychus.
It really is.
And is about 5 feet tall. Some people look at them as like only 3 feet tall, but I mean there were smaller Deinonychuses about that, but they're average about 5 or 4 feet tall, but they could stand as tall as 5 feet tall.
Right.
Which is pretty amazing. That's like maybe a foot smaller than a Utah raptor. But Utah raptor is like I was looking at like the skulls of the legs over there. The Utah raptors like comes up to about here on me. Like the legs of a Deinonychus come to about here on me. So I'm like, wow, it's really actually
it's a decent size. Yeah.
Out. It's like you got the Velociraptor down to here. You got Deinonychus like up to here, and then you got Utah raptor up to here. So yeah, it's pretty neat to look at.
And there are isolated specimens that suggest they could get even bigger than that too. So
Utah raptor?
No, Deinonychus. Yeah, I think they've got a few fragments at Museum of the Rockies that suggest that they could get a little bit bigger than that as well. So
up to a little bit more than.
Yeah. I don't think they've been published yet, but I've heard rumors at least. So
wow, that's really neat.
I know. Yeah. That's the thing about a lot of dinosaurs is we don't necessarily know how big they could get because oftentimes they died before they're fully grown, which is different from like a lot of modern mammals.
And definitely, and then you're also looking at their stance too. Are they like
horizontal? They're more upright. Yeah. With these Deinonychus, it would make sense for them to be fully horizontal. They've got that long tail for balance. But Anyway,
really neat.
Cool stuff. So, glad you're still here, Mark. Are you going to be here tomorrow also?
Yeah, I'll be here tomorrow. Yeah.
Nice.
So maybe we'll
cool.
see you tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll probably do an earlier stream tomorrow. We'll see.
All right. Sweet.
Yeah. Thanks for your time. Right there. Hunter's using the So since this is such a big block, it's going to take... So he broke out the heavy equipment and breaking up that rock, so hopefully we can get it flipped today. And maybe even bottom jacketed tomorrow and taken back. Very cool. Let's go to a slightly quieter area, and I think we're getting a raid here. Well, hello, hello. Let's see, Draw Curiosity, how are you doing? Welcome to Paleontologizing. It's good to have you here. Holy cow. We're here in St. George, Utah, across the street from the St. George Dinosaur Discovery Site Museum. That's just over there. But we're here at the emergency fossil excavation. Across the street, doing an emergency fossil excavation. This site, which contains the bones and teeth of dinosaurs and ancient fishes, ancient sharks, the tracks and traces of various vertebrate and invertebrate animals, and there's plants here too. It's just a fantastic menagerie of different critters from the earliest Jurassic period, 200 million years ago. This site is slated to be destroyed in maybe less than a month. We've been told we've got until the end of April, the 30th, as our drop dead date, for when we have to stop work here, and then the city is going to come in, bulldoze this, and build an electrical substation here. So that's why this is an emergency, is we're trying to excavate whatever we can in the time that we've got. We've got so far over 700 specimens, most of them fossil fishes from this ancient lake, but lots of other critters too, including some very, very tantalizing pieces of dinosaurs. Dinosaurs, much like, here we go. This guy here, big old theropod, and then there's a smaller theropod who seems to be even more common than these rocks based on the number of footprints that have been found. There we go. So these guys were hanging out in and around this ancient lake, going after fishes, having a seafood lunch here and there, and also just, you know, having a grand old time at the beginning of the Jurassic period. So that's what's going on here. Thank you, Draw Curiosity, for the raid. I hope you had an excellent stream. Hope Emergency Digo. Thank you, Draw Curiosity. Hey, I appreciate the raid. Totally fine. You got a raid and run. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks for bringing everybody over. And raiders and anybody else who's new, let me know if you've got any questions. Dog? What, are you talking about the coelophysoid theropod? Yeah. You could try and pet it. You'd be about 200 million years too late. I'm sorry.
We need a break from the heavy weight.
But maybe in a little bit I'll show you some of those footprints and the swim tracks too, from when these dinosaurs were kicking their feet along the bottom of this muddy lake, leaving these streaks in the mud that are today preserved as it's beautiful fossils that tell a story. It's awesome stuff. Yeah. And temporary ear relief for all. There you go, Snow Denchi, yeah. Yeah, so let's go back over there and we'll see them scooping out those chunks of matrix. There we go, nice. Oh, someone was asking if this particular piece of heavy equipment has a nickname, like Thrill House. This is just the Hilti, right? You just call it, or does it have one?
It's fast. Ask Josh why that is.
I think I might know. That's really funny. All right, this one's called Fastbender. Okay, nice. You're talking about?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, that gives me a clue. I think I probably know the answer. And do you think we'll have to go deeper in order to get this thing flipped?
I'd kind of like to.
Uh-huh.
It might be deep enough, actually. if we undercut this, as far as these saw blade cuts have gone down, I think that's pretty solid.
Nice.
If we're gonna have to probably undercut it like a couple inches at least.
Okay.
And then build a skirt around it. That way we can get it out pretty solid. We're gonna flip it that way since that's that straight edge.
Nice.
That makes sense.
SQ2 201.
So Hunter, is that dug out enough, or should I go more?
That's pretty good, I think. I don't remember even how much was in there before.
Well, I kind of went with the plaster level.
Joshua Fluke says this could make such a good Travel Channel or Discovery Channel show. Thanks for doing this. That's what I think too. I'd love to see more stuff like this.
We'll cap it. We'll add another.
Fewer ghost swamp truckers and real-life paleontologists doing real-life paleontology on Discovery Channel. That would be nice. But, yeah. Isolated says, what's the biggest flip you've helped with, Danny? Oh boy.
Well, let me brush this up.
That's a good question.
Do you want to toilet paper it tonight, or may I toilet paper it tonight?
Maybe like a Triceratops skull or a Triceratops sacrum. We had some huge flips last year in the Almond Formation, but I wasn't actually there for any of them. I was at a different site working on a dinosaur at the time. They had like a jacket that was probably well by hand, and then up a mound of dirt and then into the back of a truck. They did all of this by hand with no heavy equipment except for the truck, obviously. But the truck was parked, and it was so heavy it bent the tailgate of the truck. So just put a big crease in it like that, like a V. It was a rental truck too. I don't think they got their deposit back. But yeah. Oh man. And what's a flip, says Dreamt. So a flip is when we have to flip the jacket over. So I'll show you. Oh, we've got the aftermath of a flip right here. I can show you. Beautiful. Here, this is great. We've got a bunch of examples. I can show you stepwise how it works. So, got a fossil fish in here. Normally we would dig through with hand tools, make a trench around it. But since we've got such a time crunch here, we're using power tools, like that rock saw. So that speeds up the process. You dig a trench around it, and then you jacket it. So you take burlap soaked in plaster of Paris, and you make a protective cocoon, what we call a field jacket, around it like that, to protect it from the elements and keep everything together so it doesn't crumble. After that, you dig this trench around like that, you deepen the trench, and then you can get ready to flip it over. That's the flip. And that's what happened right here. Very nice. So, you flip it over so it's upside down like that. You pare away some of the rock, just like over here. So, this is done to basically make the whole thing more lightweight. You're less likely to drop it. It's easier to carry. All that. Excellent thinning down here. Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Danny. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you bet. And after that, then we take more plaster and burlap and put a cap over it. And then it's fully enclosed and ready to bring back to storage or back to the museum. Some of these things will sit there for weeks or months or years potentially. Sometimes jackets will sit in storage for decades before they get opened. It happens. So it's good that everything is contained, everything is enclosed, everything's intact like that, if it's going to be spending a long time in storage. So, does that make sense? Yeah. And Matson, hey, greetings to you too. Welcome to Paleontology. And burlap, Maggie's first word. There's a deep cut Simpsons reference there. She said burlap. Kazashi. Yeah. Oh. In the episode, Maggie's first word, when Maggie does say her, who provided the voice for that? Which celebrity said Maggie's first word. First and only word, I think, on The Simpsons. And GP Bear says, I wonder if they'd prefer other methods with more money. So the whole plaster jacketing method, this was devised by, I think, Othniel Charles Marsh's crews back in the 1870s. So we've been basically doing it the same way ever since then. It's hard to improve upon that kind of a method, you know? It's simple, it's effective, it's inexpensive. It doesn't use, it uses materials that you can easily transport that are readily obtainable. Yeah. Vincent Price, no. It was, there you go, Pimcat, Elizabeth Taylor. Yeah. The voice for Maggie's first word. Yeah. I never see Marsh never did anything for paleontology. There you go, Charlie's Dragon. Well, I don't think it was Marsh himself who came up with that method. I think it was some people on his field crews. So what's really interesting with Cope and Marsh and the whole Bone Wars thing is that they hired all of these people to actually go out and prospect and dig in the American West, while Cope and Marsh, especially Marsh, were mostly just staying in the lab out on the East Coast. Cope liked to go out into the field, and he would do that a lot, but still, both of them would hire crews to go out and do the field work. And some of these guys, they'd get fed up with either Cope or Marsh, and then they'd go work for the other guy for a while until they got fed up with them. It's interesting, the different is there, where one of the professors would be really late in making payments to their crews, and then they'd jump ship, so to speak. Yeah, Arthur Lakes, there you go, Jim, yeah. Yeah, I have heard somebody say that Arthur Lakes and his compatriots may have come up with the whole plaster jacketing method, but I don't know. I've never had I've never read a detailed account of that, I guess. It's something that people say, but I don't know if there's any hard evidence to back that up. Somebody came up with the method, but the details might be lost to time. Yeah. Yeah. And does spray foam ever get used, 32-bit cat ears? Sometimes, yeah. I have seen spray foam get used to fill in gaps in certain places. We had some big jackets in storage at Museum of the Rockies. The Utahraptor Mega Block might even have some spray foam. I'm trying to remember. There are certain crews that do use that, but it tends to be a bit pricier, It's not the cheapest stuff around. So I've never personally used it in the field, but there are crews that do use spray foam on occasion. Yeah. And spray foam is not stable long term. Yeah, definitely not archival. That's something I didn't even think to mention, Jim, but you're totally right, yeah. One of the advantages of using plaster and burlap is that stuff sticks around for, it doesn't decay and fall apart within a decade or two. It's a little bit more shelf stable than that. Spray foam, often not so much. Yeah. Anyhow. And some use silicone when the fossil is super brittle. Phoenix archaeologist? Silicone. I don't know if I've ever seen that used, but there probably are crews that do that. Anyhow. Yeah. Let's go walk around and see what else is going on. Some more cynical members of the audience might be asking themselves, look, why all this effort for a bunch of dead fish? What's so important about this? Many of these are new species, brand new to science. If we're trying to figure out what this ancient environment was like, what sort of critters were living their lives here, and what are the... And, extinction victims versus survival, all this stuff. You've got to understand as much as you can about this stuff. You got to collect as many specimens as you can. You never know what might lead to a new idea or a hypothesis you're able to effectively test by finding a new specimen. It's important. And we're digging these up for repositing in the museum across the street. These fossils, with any luck, are going to be in that museum for 100, 200, 300, 400 years maybe, you know? That's the whole point of museums like this, is to hold specimens like this in the public trust. They don't get sold, they don't get misplaced, they don't get lost, they don't get seized in divorce proceedings or something like that. They're there in a museum held in the public trust for centuries into the future, so that future generations of scientists will be able to study them too and test these hypotheses that we've come up with. They can check our work. They can continue to do science long into the future. It's that idea of continuity that makes museums so important. And these fossil fishes that we're digging up right now in the year 2025, hopefully these are going to become part of a big, beautiful historical collection that people will be talking about long, long, long into the future, long after I'm dead. You know, people will continue this work. With any luck, I'm going to be in the UK in November for the annual Society of Vertebrate Paleontology meeting. And I'm going to be seeing fossils there that are from like the very beginning of dinosaur paleontology. From, you know, the early to mid 1800s. These are fossils that were dug up way back then in stone pits and quarries and stuff like that by people who didn't really know what they were looking at the time. A lot of people didn't really have any concept of dinosaurs, but they find these unusual bones and, you know, that end up in a museum, and we can still look at them to this day. Like that original denary, the lower jawbone of Megalosaurus, described in 1824 by William Buckland. That's still in the museum there in Oxford. And there and held it. I emailed the staff there a couple years ago and requested the file so I could 3D print my own at home. That's how I got that. That's an example of, you know, here's a specimen that was dug up so long ago, and yet we can use new methods to be able to study it. They did some CT scans on it so they could try and figure out how much of it is real and how much of it are little bits of plaster that have been used to fill in gaps and stuff. So the one that I have, it's got, you know, in the digital file they removed those bits of plaster, so it's only the genuine bone and tooth in there. That's what I have 3D printed at home on a specimen that was dug up in the early 1800s. That's the power of museums. That's why we're doing this. That's why this is so important to get these fossils out of the ground. This isn't some temporary thing. This isn't for short-term profit. This isn't next quarter thinking. This is making sure that these fossils are preserved for as long as there are museums around. As long as there is thriving human civilization. These fossils, these important scientific specimens, will still be here. They've been in the ground for 200 million years at this point. We're trying to ensure that they'll be around for longer than that, for as long as we can manage. You know, a short-sighted human society, you know? So yeah, perpetuity. Exactly, Jim. Perpetuity. Yeah. And Kennedy says, I can still remember the first dinosaur skeletons I saw in elementary school going to the museum. Museums like this, like this one across the street, St. George Dinosaur Discovery Site Museum. Check out the VOD if you didn't get to see the tour there from a few weeks ago. It's one of my favorite streams I've done in a while. It was a ton of fun. Museums like this are one of the ways that we as paleontologists communicate our ideas to the public. This is how we teach people about the history of life on Earth. That is a window that the public can use to look into our science and to look into the ancient past. And I think that's incredibly important. I'm trying to use these broadcasts as kind of a similar window, you know, showing you how paleontology works. So you could watch it happen, you know? So yeah. Actual Deg says, I'm a 10-minute walk from the Oxford Natural History Museum. It's an amazing place. I haven't been, not yet. Maybe this November I can go. We'll see. Yeah. But yeah. Yeah. We'll go check out what they're doing over there too. Yeah. And yeah, let me catch up to chat here too. We ever go to Darren Naish's new DinoCon someday? Maybe Deathsaurus, I don't know. Never say never. Yeah. And how old are the fish? And were they saltwater or freshwater fish? So these fishes, like the rest of the fossils here, are about 200 million years old. Might be 199, might be 201, but I usually say 200 million years old from the very beginning of the Jurassic period. And from a freshwater lake here. Here, I'll show you the pull that up. Ancient Lake Whitmore. There we go. So this was, when I say a lake, it's almost like an inland sea, like one of the Great Lakes, like Superior, or Lake Erie or something. Enormous lake. Those lines you're seeing there are the U.S. states of Arizona and Utah and Nevada and California. This was a lake that would be, you know, bigger than some of those small East Coast states. Just enormous. And as far as we know, there doesn't seem to be saltwater influence. It seems to be purely a freshwater lake. But that's one of the things that we're studying. Like, maybe we'll find some evidence that there is some marine influence here. Maybe at some point it did connect to the sea, because that red square right there shows the extent of this map. And so it's not, you know, impossibly far from the sea. There could be some marine influence, but we don't really have reason to think that there is yet. But again, all of that could change with like a single fossil discovery. If we find something that we know is, you know, like basically has to be marine, something like an ammonite, like we were talking about yesterday with Jeff, that would imply, oh shoot, maybe there is a connection to the ocean here, you know? So yeah. And Jim says 201 million years ago. Dates directly from the lake sediments, within 0.5 to 1 million years of extinction. So yeah, again, this is, thank you, Jim. One of the reasons why this is so important, like I've been saying, is that this is just after the Triassic Jurassic. So after one of the biggest catastrophes in Earth history, when like species on Earth die out suddenly. Right here. Here's this diagram that I've been using as a visual aid. Here we go. The end Triassic extinction event is this one. It is one of the big five, as we often say. There's the one at the end of the Cretaceous, with the extinction of the dinosaurs, except for birds. The Triassic-Jurassic extinction, the Permo-Triassic, the late Devonian, and end Ordovician extinction events. These are the big five die-offs in Earth history, where like an incredible, insane number of different species, not just species, but genera, families, sometimes whole orders or, you know, subclasses of organisms go extinct. This is one of those big ones right here. And these rocks are from basically just after that. So in order to understand that extinction event, to know the patterns, who died and who survived and why, we got to study before and we got to study after. This is one of the best sites in the world for studying the after part. You know, who were the lucky survivors and what did they do afterward? That information is in here. Just waiting for us to find. Super important. Yeah. And Volcano Doc says it's important to note there are quite a few flood basalts that have no associated extinction event. Yes, that is true, Volcano Doc. Yeah. Although they might have... I mean, any flood basalt is going to cause the extinction of at least a couple species, because they're huge, huge events. But not all of them are associated with, like, mass extinction events. Huge, huge, huge die-offs where, like, half of species on Earth die out. I'm like, you can't have the release of just of square kilometers of magma without changing Earth's atmosphere a little bit and without wiping out. So those are important events no matter what, even if they don't cause a mass extinction, however you define that. But yeah. This mass extinction event does, you know, it does seem to be, it seems like the preponderance of evidence suggests that it was, you know, massive volcanic eruptions. Big magmatic province, massive flood basalts. All that magma and all that green atmosphere changing the climate. That's what caused this extinction event. Yeah, correct. That's my point, says Volcano Doc. Nice, good. I'm glad we're on the same page. I'm glad I'm not contradicting the expert here. Which makes figuring out the difference in what the important. Good stuff. All about the evidence. There you go, Volcano Doc. Yeah. And square sapphires. It's awesome. Glad to hear it. And it makes me really happy when folks who are completely new to this kind of thing, or folks who certainly know a thing or two, can both enjoy this. That's a sign that, you know, I'm not doing things too badly wrong. Hopefully I'm doing something right, you know? Yeah. And... oh, by the way, I don't know, Volcano Doc, are you familiar with Paleo Jim here? Have you two met in the chat before? Volcano Doc is a volcanologist. She's in Oklahoma now, I think. She's got an awesome new job. And Paleo Jim is Jim Kirkland, who's the Utah State paleontologist who works for the Utah Geological Survey. Yeah, so Volcano Doc, meet Jim. Jim, meet Volcano Doc. Yeah. Jim says Shanxi Rise, Jurassic Cretaceous extinction, Untong Java basal Aptian extinction, both tied to asteroids. Interesting, Jim. Yeah. Anyhow. I've seen them around, yes, and in the Midwest. You likely have a few mutuals. Howdy, sir. Nice, Volcano Doc. Nice. Yeah. Very cool. And yeah. Yeah. And by the way, if anybody's not yet following Volcano Doc, you're missing out. She does volcanology live streams, and she is. I always feel weird talking about this because I don't want to undersell it. She's very much an expert in her field, PhD researcher. She is as legit as it gets. Go give Volcano Doc a follow. But yeah. Yeah, we'll go check in with Andrew and them maybe and see how many specimens we've had from just today. Again, it's almost like a half day. Not as full or as productive as we would like because of the weather, but we're making the most of it. And we've had some good stuff today. Some new fishes found. Some new tracks found too, which is pretty exciting. It's good stuff. Let's see. Hey, boss man. Do we have any kind of an idea, a count even of new specimens?
Lots of fish scales.
Lots of fish scales?
Yeah.
Collecting?
Oh.
If we collected every single one, we'd have, what, tens of thousands at this point?
Sounds like you do.
Oh, it would be ridiculous.
Oh.
Yeah, there's just no point. Count?
Okay.
Over 750, I would guess.
Oh, so far. I meant today.
Oh, today. Oh,
Yeah.
boy.
We are like not even.
We're not even at that point where we'd.
Through.
Yeah. So here's where some of the real work starts at the end of the day. Just trying to log all of these specimens, get them recorded into the logbook, and of course we make digital backups of those in case anything happens to the original book. Yeah. But it's getting late. It's after 6 p.m. already. Holy cow. It is? Yeah. 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 And cries in New England, lack of fossils? Zeroable. No, that's where you're wrong, though. One of the only other good places in North America to find rocks and fossil organisms from this time is in... Well, Connecticut is New England, isn't it? My East Coast geography is very spotty. I'm a West Coast boy myself. But the Connecticut River Valley is kind of famous for its dinosaur tracks from roughly this same time, the very beginning of the Jurassic. There's some incredible dinosaur footprints there, and I think is it Dinosaur Valley State Park in Connecticut? That's an incredible place to visit. They've got a whole visitor center and everything else, featuring fauna very similar to this, but on the east coast of the U.S., which at the time was very far inland, because North America and Africa and Europe were all smushed together at the time. So, but similar in age, says Paleo Jim. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, very cool stuff. So check it out if you're there in New England. You're very lucky. You've got some of these very similar age rocks there, with a lot of really cool fossils. Yeah, and it's a very similar display to the St. George Museum. I've been there. Super cool. Never winter fool. Super cool. Yeah, get some chowder too. There you go, Mr. Audio Propagations. Yeah. Pangea. There you go, Square Cephets. Yeah. Lots of fossils here at the Great Lakes. A ton of corals. Yeah. Pause the game. I like your name. Yeah, things like Petoskey stones up on the west coast of Michigan. I might be heading there this summer actually for a brief jaunt. But those are from the Devonian period. Petoskey stones are from further back in time. I'll show you on the diagram. Earth history here. Oh. Let's find that Ray Troll time chart here. There we go. So, the rocks that we're working in right now in St. George are from the Triassic-Jurassic boundary right here. Now those Devonian corals, well, that you get in like the west coast of Michigan, are of course from the Devonian period. So, yeah, about 400 million years old. So, about 200 million years older than the stuff that we've got here, which is Yeah, kind of puts things into perspective, right? Thought these rocks were old. No, get yourself out there to the upper Midwest, the Great Lakes. You'll see some old rocks. And, well, shoot, we've got way, way, way older rocks up in Canada, like part of the Canadian Shield. Some of that stuff is like well over 1 billion years old. I think the oldest rocks in North America are from Northeast Canada. The name is slipping my mind right now, but Andrew and I were talking about it. Yeah. Southern Illinois has Precambrian banded iron formations, yeah, so over 500 million years old there. Thank you, Jody Fish, yeah. Yeah. Good stuff. Time is on your side, says Mr. Audio Propagations. I hope so. I don't feel like time has been on our side here. We've got less than 2 weeks now to dig out whatever we can before this site gets destroyed, but it's been a real privilege working here and talking to folks, just trying to do science. This has been a real kind of kick in the butt to get this all excavated. You know, we wouldn't be working here right now if it weren't for this electrical substation project. We're still maybe the city decides to change their mind about this, relocate, the site can be preserved. We'll see what happens. But yeah, for right now, we're pedal to the metal just trying to get this done. I appreciate all of you watching and everybody who's come out to volunteer, like XVR and Mark Ostrom here. It's been incredible. Neolithic Fool was here the other day. It's great meeting him. Just the level of support that this community has offered to this project. Not just volunteering, but also donating, purchasing equipment off of the wish list for the project. And just offering like moral support, cheering us on, sharing these things on social media. It all makes a difference. It's been a tremendous privilege to be able to not just work here, but to share it with all of you. And I feel really grateful for the opportunity. I wouldn't be here if I didn't have the flexibility that Twitch streaming allows, if I didn't have the support of this community allowing me to do this full time, make my own schedule, travel to stream. So I feel like the luckiest guy in the world. And I know I say that a lot, but I mean it. I really appreciate it, chat. That said, we're going to wrap things up here. I'm going to help with takedown and maybe logging some specimens, doing whatever else I can do to help. So we would need to know where to write letters, Jody Fish. We'll have some info on that week, I'm told. We'll see. But right now, we won't be able to raid into Science streams because Lita and Belint just had their baby a few hours ago. Right after we started streaming, so they're going to be gone for a while. Let's see who else is on at the moment, and see if we can continue the science for this evening. Let's see here. It looks like PaleoStream is live. Well. Let's go right into PaleoStream. Joshua Knupe is a paleo artist from Germany. And, yeah, the Twitch app is not letting me do it. Claire, would you mind setting up a raid for PaleoStream? Yeah. That would be great. Yeah. Thank you, everybody. I'll be streaming again tomorrow. Early stream tomorrow. So if you're concerned about maintaining a watch streak, keep an eye out for that notification. Because tomorrow is my last day here. I'll be leaving around noon, I'm thinking, to head back home to California. I've got a bunch of projects at home that I've got to work on. but I've been proud to be able to contribute to this project here. Yeah, so I hope to see you all tomorrow, bright and early. It's going to be about 3 hours earlier, 4 hours earlier, 5 hours earlier than I normally start. We'll see. But I hope to catch you all then. Take care, everybody, and bye-bye.